Okay, hey everybody, we're gonna get started back up briefly. Okay, so everyone just come back to your seats, but while you guys go back to your seats, I just want to make a couple announcements. One, the Rough Phillips campaign, they have made it their table since they're no longer needing it. Any candidates for any race across wherever, they can use their table, put stuff on that table. So if you have stuff you want to lay it out on that table. Thank you. Cool. With that, okay, so again, we recessed for the last hour because of credentials issues. Some of those credential issues are still being resolved. And also, I want to just issue an apology to those watching online, since I have not recognized you yet. Basically, once we resolve all the credential issues, I will be calling on an online participant next. But with the credentials issues that are still pending, I'm going to recognize Mr. Eckel at line 2.
Oh, Josh Eckel, Tennessee delegation. I'd like to make a motion to recess until after lunch to resolve our credentialing problems or porcupine issues.
Is there any objection to that motion? Objection. Objection heard? Okay. Okay, so we will move to a vote on recessing. Let me just take a look if... Okay, let me just first get Daniel Fishman on the... can we bring in the Daniel Fishman from the Zoom call to see what's the status of voting in the Porcupine app?
Alex, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to put up a poll. Shall we recess?
Yes. Okay. And was the point of order? Where does that point of order come from? Point of order?
Vote, they can't get in the app. Yeah, there are delegates that aren't in the app, so they can't
vote.
They're
going to do it. They're going to do a poll on Zoom. So all of those delegates are on Zoom. So we'll be able to
but nobody in the hall's in Zoom.
Huh? No, we're going to do both. Well,
okay.
Okay.
How are we going to ask delegates to vote when we haven't credentialed anybody yet?
Well, this is the vote for a recess, because we basically, once there's an objection, I need to get a vote to see if we recess or not.
But who's voting?
Anyone on the credentials report. Because basically, until the credentials report is passed or fails, everyone on the credentials report participates. Okay. So with that, we'll get Dan's poll. And then, okay, with the point of order, mic 3.
At this time, we can only vote by voice vote and rising vote. We haven't put in the mechanism yet to allow remote participation. We can't do that yet. Down the road, we can do that. We should try and figure out a way to do that, but we can't do that yet. So the only thing we can do is have the people in this room vote to recess. That's all they can do. And there's a pending motion on the floor from before, so you really can't be taking up new motions.
Well, this is a motion to recess, which can be taken when there's business.
But we're challenging the credentials report, right? So you got to take care of that.
Okay.
Come over.
Yeah, taking a recess is in order when there's a motion on the floor. And 2, okay, I am going to rule it in order that everyone can participate if they're on the credentials list by the means that we have provided, again, for the same reasons I cited before, because of the unique situation that we're in. And if people want to challenge that, you are more than welcome to. Point of order, mic 1.
Mic 1, Aaron Adams, Oklahoma. Not everyone in this room has the ability to vote in either method you have prescribed. I would like to know what your solution to that is, and I would like to know now.
Okay, I said I would take a voice vote of the people in the room. Okay, so we'll do a voice vote for the people in the room. And then, and again, the point of this recess is so that we can resolve the credentials issues. So I think everyone wants the credentials issues resolved. Okay? So on that, okay, vote aye if you're in favor of taking a recess till after lunch. Aye. Okay, that's a clear majority. Okay, and if you're opposed, say nay. Nay, okay. Let's do a rising vote. That was not. Okay, so if you're in favor of a recess till after lunch, rise. Okay, and if you are in favor of not rise now. Nays, rise. That is a majority for the ayes. For the ayes. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
there's an online vote going as well, but it is well in favor right now.
So in both ways, we have a majority. We are recessed till after lunch. Yep. Wait 1 moment. Okay. So I'm gonna give you guys a specific time. I mean, I have it on the agenda right here. Till 2 p.m., yeah. Yep, I'm just checking right here. Yep, till 2 p.m. So it's till 2 p.m. So everyone come back at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Mr. Chair, I know we're in recess, but do you mind if I allow some people on the remote to speak, even
Sure.
though we're in recess?
Go for it.
Daryl Perry.
So it's till 2 p.m. So everyone come back at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Daryl, mute your other audio. I know we're in recess, but do you mind if I allow some people on the remote to speak, even though we're in recess? Daryl, turn off YouTube. Daryl Perry.
I was planning to speak against the motion.
So we're in recess.
Hey, we're not in session, but just, if I could, just a note for mostly chairs, but also delegates. If you're looking in the porcupine.live web app and you're seeing yourself or other delegates listed as pending, it's not a problem. That's an optional flag that we had. So it doesn't mean you can't vote, doesn't mean you're not present. We know who's present. We have that recorded in our credentialing database, which is separate. Also, there was a problem with some delegates not showing up in the list, again on Porcupine. Again, we know who those people are. And part of that is a technical, or not even a technical, it's a thing with the app so that those people can mostly still participate, probably all. It's because they logged in early and did their training last week like they were supposed to, and the system doesn't want to create a new profile for them. That's how it was explained to me. Most of those people can still just log in and vote anyway and participate. So, and those things are getting worked on. I'm sorry, I took the, yeah. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. And we're back to the races. Okay. Now, let's just all stretch our post-lunch legs real quick. Let's just do a quick, well, on the count of 3, let's all go, woo! Okay? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Okay, so always nice to do things together before we might do something not together. But anyways, just so you guys know where we left off, we had a motion on the floor regarding challenging delegates who were participating remotely. That came from Mike 3. Right now, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm doing Mic 1, Mic 2, Mic 3, and then recognizing people from online. So now I'm going to recognize some from online. Is Dan Fishman there? Zoom mic? Is Dan Fishman available? Going once. Going twice. Okay. We're going to continue debate on the motion on the floor. So I'm going to go back to, well, right for now, I'm back to Mic 1. So do we have anybody at Mic 1?
I'm part of parliamentary.
Restate the motion? Sure. Miss Carlos, can you?
I'm gonna
Floor?
well, no, yours.
Okay, can you put it on the screen? Oh, okay. Yeah, Angela, could you restate your motion? Just want to make sure I got the exact wording. And
Bear with me one moment, please. Previously, I moved to amend the credentials report to remove remote participation delegates so that we can later vote on allowing remote participation according to the related bylaws proposal.
Okay, so that is the motion on the floor. But before I address mic number one, I'm going to have Ms. Hogarth come in just to give you an update on the credentials report.
She could speak to her motion first.
Oh, Ms. McArdle, did you want to say anything more to your motion?
Absolutely. It's been brought to my attention by a handful of angry delegates that they believe that they can sue the party if we allow remote participation. Certainly that's not something I'd be helping them achieve, but my concern is that it will bankrupt the party, especially considering how we have not generated a lot of revenue through the online participation at this convention. And I also believe that it's a bylaws violation. The reason that I worded my motion the way that I did is because I do not want it to come across as though I'm disenfranchising people who are not able to attend because of government regulation or egregious health issues. I believe that the body should follow the bylaws and allow remote participation if they so choose according to the bylaws.
Okay, I recognize. I recognize Ms. Adams at microphone 1.
Yeah, I have a point of information. Ms. McArdle's motion spoke to remote delegates. Currently in the Porcupine app, I am listed as a remote delegate. Clearly, that is not the case. So how are we going to decide and know who is remote and who isn't when the information we're being provided with is 100% inaccurate?
Okay. Noted. Okay, and then I'm going to recognize Mr. Molman at mic 2.
This is Ken Molman, delegate of Kentucky.
Wait one. Just point. Okay. Oh, she made it. In regards, as far as the information regarding who is a remote delegate and not a remote delegate, since we don't have clarity on that, because of, as you stated, there's confusion over who's a remote delegate, who's not a remote delegate. Some people who are here are listed as remote delegates. I want to ask Ms. Hogarth, do you have any other mechanism by chance in which you could delineate who's participating remotely or online aside from how they're marked in the app?
We know who's participating remotely through the app.
Got it.
I know. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. The information that we have about remote participation comes from the app. So to whatever extent we have that. The information we have about in-person delegates comes from them coming up to our desk. I think that I can't judge the app. I'm not technical, and I can't judge it. I think that it's not 100% incorrect. I'm not sure how that's even possible. But it's probably not 100% correct either. It's possible that people who are here on the floor walked by the desk and didn't get credentialed and are going to raise their hand for a vote. That always happens. And I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just presenting some thing. There's going to be issues with people in an open floor like this, whether it's online or with just doors in a convention hall, because we're not stopping people as they walk in. So that's, I see where it's standing. So we do know from the app that, that 410 delegates and 75 alternates have logged in through the application. It's up to the body to consider whether they should. When we have 300 delegates and 40 alternates in person here that we've spoken to, Remember, there can be mistakes either in person or online. Thanks.
Okay. So now that that clarifies sort of our ability to deal in, well, no. I mean, I'm going to rule on the objection, and I want to rule that since the only source of information we have versus remote versus non-remote right now is the app, and as we've seen,
She's not asking.
okay. Well, let me just, Miss Adams, can you give Mike one?
So, Mr. Chair, Ms. Hogarth just told us that Credentials knows who is here, and that's reflected. I am clearly here, but what is reflected is that I am participating remotely. So clearly that statement, that it's untrue.
Oh no, I was going
If
to.
we're going to do something like this, I would call for a physical roll call.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Molman, Mike two.
That is actually what I wanted to ask as a point of information. Is it appropriate, is it something we can do to do a state-by-state roll call of the delegates in the hall so we can establish who's actually here in person? And I don't know the answer.
Got it. Are you moving to do so?
Well, if it's in order, then I would move to do so, and I would ask that we do so in a way that's slow enough that we can write these names down as we go, so that Credentials can also check to make sure that they're valid. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but that's what I'm moving.
Point of order, Mike one.
Microphone. Nicholas Rourke, delegate from New Hampshire. In what way is it in order, Mr. Chair, for us to address any part of the proposed Credentials Committee report separate from any other part of the proposed Credentials Committee report? It is very clear in Robert's rules that when you're dealing with an initial credentials report, everybody who is credentialed in the initial proposed report has the power to vote on that Credentials Committee report. So this figuring out who is here in person presupposes that there is a difference between being here in person and participating remote. And there is no such difference. This is entirely out of order. Mr. Chair, we need to proceed to a vote on the motion with every potential credential delegate being allowed to vote and dispose of this matter so we can get on with our business.
What?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? Alex, for those of you on the Zoom, I've called and told them to turn our microphone
Mr.
on
Fishman?
in the room.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that you could hear me and call on the Zoom microphone people.
Okay, good. I can hear you now. Good. Okay, one moment. We're just going to resolve the issue on the table. Mr. Molman, was there more to your address? That was an objection. That was an objection. So I'm in the process of determining my ruling. Oh, can you show the secretary's screen? So that way people can see the motion on the floor? Well, actually, I'll pass that question to Mr. Fishman. Mr. Fishman, are you there?
I am.
Okay, the question is there any confirmation on timing as far as when will all the delegation chairs be on the app?
All the delegation chairs should be on the app now in terms of having access to the delegation state chair page to rank their delegates. I believe everybody who has contacted me, either via Slack or Facebook, I have given them the page to go to.
Got it. Okay, so
state chairs who are there in person who don't have them can ask Ms. Hogarth, and she will tell them how to do that.
Okay, so I'll connect you with Ms. Hogarth. Okay, so back to.
I think something I said earlier might have been misconstrued or misunderstood. We know who's here. They came by the desk and checked in. Is it possible when somebody was typing, they hit save or refresh instead of save or somehow messed up? Yeah, a mistake could be made. Is it possible someone skipped the credentials desk and is now sitting in the hall? Yes, that's possible too. But we have a roll call for, or we have a roll for the present delegates, as we normally do in a convention where we're seated physically. That's what the credentialing desk is for, and people have been amazingly good about coming by and checking in, and the volunteers have been amazingly good about going into our credentialing database, which is not the same as the Porcupine app, and putting their names in and marking them as present. So we're good there. That's all I wanted to clarify. What app are you talking about, Ken? Yes, that's what I said. We're checking people in our credentialing database. We're also asking them to send an email. We're also writing their names down physically. So we have a roll call. We have paper. We have CiviCRM, the national database, where people are flagged as present. That is the canonical credentialing database.
The question is, do you know for sure who's participating online? Because if we don't have a list with integrity of who is online and they get removed from the credentials report, we might be removing people who are here physically.
Yes.
So basically what I'm saying is we know who's here physically, but do we have a list other than what's in the app of who's remote? Because the motion is to remove those who are remote, and we don't want to accidentally remove people who are here physically in that. And if that's the case, then I have to rule the motion out of order because of unfeasibility.
So everything is possible. That would just require, and I say that because Emily Salvette would be doing the work and not me, require comparing two lists and subtracting one from another. That's a much more arduous task than you might imagine, but I'm not using that as an argument against it. I'm just saying, yes, sort of.
Okay, I'm gonna rule the roll call out of order just because of. One, I don't think we have the feasibility right now with the app to be able to count everyone in a timely manner to figure out who these remote delegates are. So thus, delineating them for this motion just makes the whole motion that's on the floor out of order with the point, Ms. Adams' point. So I'm going to clear the floor. Would you like to challenge that? Oh, mic number 2?
Mr. Chair, I do believe it is possible to do a roll call vote, a roll call of who's in this hall, and therefore I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay. Is there a second to the appeal? Okay, cool. Then we begin discussion on the appeal, and I'm going to go to mic 3, and then we'll go online. So, Mike, recognize whoever's at mic number 3.
I was in line to debate a different aspect rather than this, so I'm going to step aside.
Okay, so we'll recognize the next person at line number 3. Okay,
Roger Roots, delegate from Montana. I cannot believe that credentials does not have the ability to separate out on the present delegates from online delegates. That is planned failure or plan that cannot have happened without some plan to sabotage what we're doing here. We have to have a way to separate the two for the purpose of these challenges. This is ridiculous.
Okay, and then I'm going to go to recognize someone online. Mr. Fishman, who is next online?
First, I have Daryl Perry, then Francis Went, and then Andy Craig.
Okay, so we'll go with Mr. Perry.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Daryl Perry, New Hampshire. I was hoping to be able to speak on the actual amendment that is on the floor and not the challenge to the ruling of the chair. So if you would deem it to be in order, I would request to divide the questions so that we vote on each challenge delegate separately, and I will call all previous questions.
I would deem an individual division out of order, but you could divide it by state if you wanted to. Would you choose to do that?
I will do that, yes.
Okay, and then, okay, so we'll come back to that.
And I am additionally calling all previous questions.
Is there a second to call previous questions? Point of order, Mike 3.
His status as a delegate is being challenged. At this point, he can't even make motions. You can't make motions till we settle the credentials issue. That's the whole point.
Point of order, not point of order, I'm responding to the point of order. Unless the delegates say otherwise, I'm going to recognize everyone who's on the credentials report, because that is who the state delegations have chose to be recognized at this juncture. Rightly or wrongly, the LNC made a decision last night, and people acted with the intention that all those delegates would be able to be recognized online or live, and that is the spirit in which I'm going to recognize delegations until the body votes otherwise. Okay, and then I'm going to recognize one more person online, and then I'll go back to the physical queue. So I think it was Mr. Wendt that was next?
Mr. Wendt is next, yes.
Point of order, Mike 1. Mike 3.
My point of order is that in spite of the assertion of the prior speaker from New Hampshire, Roberts does not clearly say that they all get to vote. In fact, it says when they're under challenge, they may not vote on their own challenge. We have a pending motion questioning the status of those delegates, but they're being allowed to participate and before we resolve the challenge to their eligibility. And this is improper.
Okay, on that point of order, in that part of Roberts, basically, it specifically states that you can challenge someone by name or by delegation, okay? And then the reason why it does that is because that way you don't have a majority of the delegates being removed single-handedly by a minority of the delegates. I can't be like, I challenge everybody, and now nobody can vote, and I'm the only person voting, and I remove everybody from the delegation slot. Right now we're in a situation where a minority of the delegates are going to be possibly removing a majority of the delegates. And in a situation like that, I'm going to rule that everyone gets a vote. If you want to restate your challenges to a minority of delegates being challenged at a time, like a division would result, then I would say those being challenged would not vote on those challenges, because it's basically majority of the delegates still get the vote. So it's the majority of the body still having a voice. I'm not going to sit there and let a small group remove the majority of the delegation, remove majority of the voice of this organization. So, and then there's another challenge. Second? Point of order, Mike 2?
Under what authority are you determining that the online participants are delegates? We adjourned the first sitting of this convention to an in-person sitting in Orlando.
And we're, okay. Now,
in person. So this whole thing's out of order. These people are not delegates until we vote to make them delegates.
Okay. So here's one. We are here in a physical place. We are holding the convention in a physical place. As the bylaws say, we stated to a time and a place. But yes, there was the motion of the LNC last week that was in the spirit to enable online participation. But the bottom line is, in that spirit, also the fact that these people are on the credentials report until the credentials report is amended. That's who's on the credentials report. Yep.
Mr. Chair, point of information, woman from Kentucky. If the Credentials Committee had put 3,000 delegates on the credentials report, even though it's illegal, would we be accepting that credentials report? If they had put 2,000 Republicans or 2,000 Democrats on the report, would we accept that report?
No. This report...
And if the answer is no, why not, how not?
Order. Let me respond to the point of order. Everyone, quiet. We're not going to be able to move forward with business if you don't let me respond to what's going on the mic. So the point of order has been risen, and my response is, the delegates that are on this credentials list are not Democrats. They meet all the list of what qualifies as a credentialed delegate. Huh? The list, okay. Ms. Hogarth, can you confirm that all the delegates have been checked, that they are a member, that they were selected by their delegation? This is the case.
I may have given an abbreviated wording in my report. Yes, the delegates that we've credentialed have been verified as submitted by their states eligible by their state party rules and the national party rules to serve as delegates at this convention. All of the 1,039 that we have credentialed, or I'm sorry, verified.
Is there somewhere they can see the report?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, can you get the report at the camera? We'll show it on the screen.
Of the present delegates?
Yeah.
Of the ones who have been.
Just of all the 1,139 that you've credentialed.
Oh, well, that's verified. I'm not sure credentialed is the right word.
Okay,
because
verified.
they haven't showed up. But yeah.
Okay. So we'll get that list and we'll put it on the screen. Okay. Now I'm gonna mic one.
Are we on? All right. John Phillips, delegate from Illinois. I have a very important point of information. How are we going to vote right now? Because last time we checked, the app wasn't letting most people vote. So we can't even vote on these objections. Can we solve that problem first?
Okay, let me call on Mr. Fishman. Are you online?
I am indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What is the status of voting right now in the app? Well,
I would like to send out a test vote right now. I believe it will work.
would everyone indulge me in doing a test vote? Okay. So let's do that. Let's set up a test ballot for 3 minutes to vote. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do an additional standing vote for those who can't vote in the app. Okay? Point of order, Mike 3.
Once again, our rules do not allow this method of voting. We are only allowed to have a voice vote or a rising vote. We haven't gotten to the point yet where these folks who are offline can possibly vote. If you're going to have this approach of having each delegation considered one at a time, which I think is a waste of time, you would still only have the people in the room voting because they're the only ones who can do a voice vote or a rising vote. So it's inappropriate to have any sort of ballot. Our bylaws specifically say ballots are only for elections. That's the only thing we can use them for. We cannot use that for this purpose.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Matt Hicks, South Carolina delegate. I think I can sort this out. How about I move we suspend the rules so that we can use ballots.
Wait, one moment. You were not recognized. I appreciate the sentiment, but wait till I recognize you. So just stand right there. Okay. So far as first, I have to resolve the point of order that was made.
I'm talking.
Okay. And on that point of order, as I said earlier, okay, in the spirit of the situation, the spirit of the organization, I think in an unprecedented year, and I'm just saying this only applies to this particular unprecedented situation that we have in 2020, that I'm going to err on the side of enabling. Again, we're talking about people who are your compatriots, people who campaign alongside you, who want to be able to participate in the business of this body, and I'm going to give the possibility for that to happen, so that way they can vote on these things. So I'm going to rule it again in this unique circumstance of 2020 in a pandemic, because of the situation, because of the venue change, because of all the things that have made it difficult for people to be here today, which is not, it's again unique to this particular context. I want to rule it in order in the same way. And again, you can take a look at things like impracticability, where basically you have a contract. And when you take a look at things that weren't expected when the contract was signed, when there's a high cost to meeting the contract, you have some flexibility, and that's sort of the situation we're in. That, again, if you want a third challenge, we can have a third challenge. We can keep going back and forth, or just resolve these challenges.
Mr. Chair, yes. Yes, I want to appeal the ruling of the chair. You can't just violate the bylaws.
I have a question.
Okay.
You just can't.
Is there a second to the challenge?
I have a question first. Aren't we still on an appeal of the ruling of the chair that we have not disposed of?
We have two appeals of the ruling on the chair right now.
Don't you have to dispose of one before you get to another?
Huh?
Don't you have to dispose of one before you get to the other?
Okay, let's do that.
Not when you have the same person bulldozing.
Okay.
I didn't make any motions. I'm just asking a question. It was
No, I
question.
agree. Let me just double check. Okay, sounds good. Now, Ms. Secretary, could you confirm with me what challenges I have on the floor for the chair? Okay, so the first challenge that we're going to resolve is whether a roll call is in order at this time. Okay, and what? Huh? Okay. Let me recognize a few other people first, and I will get to you. Okay. First, I want to recognize someone online to speak on this challenge. Mr. Fishman, who's next in line?
Next in line is Francis Wendt. Let me unmute him. One moment, please. Mr. Wendt, you're live.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fishman, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in a point of personal privilege, which is a privilege motion above all others. There have been points of order raised from the floor which have a lower precedent. The personal privilege motion that I wanted to raise is that there is a considerable lag time between the YouTube stream and who are allowed to speak online. As the chair has stated, the credentials report is open to all people who are listed on the credentials report, and the 400 and some delegates who are participating via Zoom are at a distinct disadvantage. So I ask that all votes be at a minimum, all votes through the Porcupine app be at a minimum of 5 minutes, so that everybody has equal access. Thank you.
Okay. Mike 1.
Thank you. I made this challenge, and I would like to ask if you would make a parliamentary inquiry about when it comes to credentialing. Do you have to be at the place of the convention, which was clearly established at the end of the first segment of this convention? And if the LNC would have the authority to just amend that on their own.
Restate the question?
Does the LNC have the authority to determine that people outside of the place where the convention is being held could be credentialed?
Okay. Basically, as far as that authority, the motion passed last week from the LNC. I do think it only applies to, again, the unique circumstances in 2020. I don't think that applies to normal times, but I'm basing these actions based on that vote by the LNC last week. So, and that technically would be part of the issue with some of these challenges that are currently on the floor. So that'll answer that question. Mike 2.
Mr. Merced, I just want to let people know if they're having trouble with the Porcupine app. And I'm still actually having problem with it even doing this, but one thing that can help is going and using an incognito mode on your browser. There was an issue with the people who did the early tests. It's left an artifact behind on your computer. That's why people are having issues seeing today's meeting. And so if you go into incognito mode, if you're using Chrome as was recommended, it's up at the top right corner, new incognito window, and go back into the app, log back into the app. That should help clear that part out. Now, that said, I still haven't received my poll, but that is supposed to help.
Okay. Thank you. Mike 3. Oh, okay, got it. Next person on mic 3? Is there another person on mic 3? Once, twice. Okay. No alligators today. You are Florida, though. Now, let's hear from someone online. Mr. Fishman, who's next?
We have Andy Craig next. Mr. Craig.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a clear way forward. We can adopt the credentials report, and we can proceed with the convention that everybody says they want, that everybody made decisions based on, that the LNC decided what we were going to do under these extraordinary circumstances, and to permit the majority of the duly elected delegates to participate remotely. The meeting in Orlando by itself is not our convention. The LNC called the convention to have Orlando and online, and we have hundreds of delegates here, and they represent many states who will not accept a runaway convention. The option we have now is either a catastrophic schism in the party, or we just move forward, adopt the credentials report, and let's get on with business. Thank you.
Okay. Mike 1.
David Greer, chair from Oklahoma. I've got a couple of points of information. I'm still not able to do anything as far as moving my delegates in Porcupine. I've got a delegate on site who's listed as remote, and I've got a remote delegate that isn't even on the report yet.
Okay. Yep. I'll let Ms. Hogarth answer that question. Okay. Ms. Hogarth will come to you and help you. Oh, come up to the stage. Okay, mic number 2.
Mr. Chair, it is only in order to debate a challenge of the chair if the motion that if the ruling of the chair is on a debatable matter.
Good point. Let me check if that's correct. Okay, so then let's have some votes on these challenges. So, for those who are online, we will do kind of like we did before the recess for this afternoon. For those online, we'll do a Zoom vote, and for here, we'll do a rising vote. And then I will take a look at both, and we'll go from there.
Are we going to do a counted vote here?
Huh?
Are we doing a counted vote here?
Roll call. I mean, not roll call. Rising vote. So rising vote and poll. Okay.
Mr. Merced, could you tell me the question again,
Yep.
please?
So the question is challenge to appeal of the chair is a roll call vote of each state in order. A roll call of each state to find out who's the online and offline delegates. Is the current underlying motion debatable? Okay. Okay, one moment. Okay. Okay. Mike 2.
Rule 2 is really clear. It says, on all matters except the retention of platform planks, the election of judicial committee members, party officers, and at-large members of the National Committee, and the nomination of presidential and vice presidential candidates, voting will be by either voice vote or rising vote.
Okay.
That's it. And I get that you want to be...
Mic 2. Turn it back on. Mic 2.
Hello? I get that you want to be accommodating. That's not your choice. That's this body's choice. If you're going to do that, you need to get permission of this body to have a different voting method. You can't just make this up.
Okay, understood. We'll vote on that challenge. Okay. Go for it.
Mike Connor, delegate from Iowa. I know at least one delegate who is in our CRM listed as a delegate, but he does not have access to vote. Are we going to accept that vote? If I can take that from him as a delegate chair, will I be able to take that vote and relay that for this motion if we follow through with the vote?
One, you could relay it to me, but 2, if they're in the Zoom room for this vote, I would do a Zoom poll, so they'll be voting in Zoom, not in the app.
At this point, he hasn't received anything. No emails, nothing. He should have received something. He's replied to credentialing. He's emailed credentialing. He has no access whatsoever. I am concerned about people that should be credentialed. I'm showing on my screen all pending except for me and one other person as being credentialed. I have questions about the credentialing report. I have questions about the ability for our delegates, both remotely and in person, to be able to vote. I want to make sure that everybody has a voice. I'm all for remote, but I want to make sure everybody's credentialed and everybody has a voice.
Okay, noted. Yep, go for it.
Hi. I realized first I wanted to say if there is an actual problem with credentialing, text, email, you can send it to my CAT list at 919, I forgot my number, 906-2106. Or come up to me and wave at me. I'm happy to help sort things out. But I also wanted to say that I don't think that it's fair to say my delegation has a problem with a delegate, therefore the whole process should be scrapped. That happens in any convention, and it's something that we have to face, but I don't think pointing out cases individually, coming to the microphone, using that as a way to try to resolve a credentialing problem is a way to just tank the whole process. I just wanted to say that. Thanks, Denise. Got my back. Okay,
Okay, I'm going to recognize Mike 3.
I just have a question on what we're voting on because I was not clear of what you said. I believe we're at the vote on the appeal of the ruling from the chair. My understanding is that the original motion that you ruled out of order was to do a roll call vote per delegation of those here. Not of those online, but of those here. I believe. Hello?
Yep, no, you're there.
I cut out. I believe that that's what it was, not that we did it for both. So I just want to be very clear what we're voting on, because I believe that that's where we're at, is to vote on the appeal from the ruling of the chair.
Confirm and appreciate it. Thank you for the thank you for that clarifying point of information.
That's
Mike,
the correct right?
Yep. Mr. Momin, is that correct? Is that a correct description of your motion? Are you, Mr. Momin? Oh. Was that just give me like a thumbs up if that's a correct description of your motion? So your underlying motion to move to do a roll call count of people who are here physically.
By state.
Okay, so that is the motion. That is a challenge to that motion is currently what is on the table. Now we're going to recognize someone online. Mr. Fishman, who's next?
Next up is Mina Myers, and then Jake Leonard.
Okay. Go for it.
Ms. Myers, are you ready? If not, I see Jake Leonard is ready. Jake, why don't you go?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jake Leonard, alternate and political director for the state of Illinois. We have been debating this for 4 hours and 41 minutes. I am aware that there are issues. They need to be worked out. But the obstructionists need to ultimately step aside so that we can approve what we have and then work on the issues as we go along. And then let's get to the business of the party. This is my first time participating in this convention. So howdy to the newbies out there. But let's get the problems resolved as quickly as possible. Let's vote. Forget about the bylaws for once. I mean, it's stupid that we're arguing bylaws when the convention has barely even started. 4 hours and 41 minutes we've been arguing this. It's time for us to get to business of the party. Thank you.
Okay. Mike 1.
Michael Heiss, delegate from Pennsylvania. I would like to call for a point of parliamentary inquiry both into the finding of the LNC for the remote voting as well as the split credentialing issue.
Okay, say that again.
Point of parliamentary inquiry for both the finding of the LNC for unilateral remote participation as well as the split credentialing issue.
Okay. My ruling, far as the authority goes, I do rule that the LNC had acted, and my presumption, because I was one of the people who voted yes, was that it was an act under the circumstances of impossibility and practicality. The point is the aura of 2020, and then that's sort of where that authority came from. Again, not some authority that they would normally have, would not have in 2022, not have in 2024. Unless otherwise given to you guys unless you guys amend the bylaws to give that authority. That is sort of where was my thoughts at the time of the vote.
What does the parliamentarian think?
Out of order. At the end of the day, I am presiding over this. At the end of the day, it's my ruling. At the end of the day, If it bothers you, if you guys can have me removed, but at the end of the day, it's my decision that matters, and you guys can challenge my decision, and that's fine. But I'm presiding. Okay, Mike 2.
Arthur Thomas from Texas. Whitney Bill, you stepped down, and I just now got access to be delegation chair, and we don't have our alternates sorted out. We have a list of 73 alternates that we have to get sorted if we go to using Porcupine. And also, I'm just going to caution that if people use, people here can vote in Zoom and in a standing vote. So if you look at both,
Yep.
you might not.
Thank you very much. Mike 3.
I'm still waiting for you to dispose of the challenges.
Got it. Someone's got to call the question. Online.
Next, we have up Randy McGlenn.
Okay,
and
go
then
for it.
Rex Lawhorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Randy, a delegate from Washington State. I just want to speak to this delegation and addressing the current issue at hand. We as libertarians should be about finding free market approaches, which means that we should be open to alternatives and options that democratize our society to be able to participate and engage. And I am very concerned about any issues about blocking online participation in this convention, considering the current conditions that we are facing in this country. So I plead to this delegation body, Mr. Chair, that we do swiftly approve online participation, because that is the libertarian way. And I ask anybody who agrees with me, if this body does not cooperate, that we walk out to reduce quorum or eliminate quorum, so that we can send a message that we need to start acting like libertarians and start coming up with solutions to our problems, instead of sticking ourselves into a position because we may have a disagreement about something. Let's work together. Let's come together. Let's be libertarians.
Okay.
And let's move this forward.
Mike 1.
And then I have Rex Lawhorn online.
Oh, well, I'll come back to Rex.
Okay, we have 411.
Hi, it's Emily Goldberg, delegate from Arizona. Just a really quick point of technical information, and if you have someone to whom we should be bringing the technical issues, I'm happy to do that and not take up the body's time. But in the test poll that was sent out, there are 3 of us here in the building from Arizona. 2 of us did not receive it. And we have a Slack channel with our colleagues who remained in Arizona. And of that group, which is roughly 30 people, at least 7 of them did not receive that active vote. And we're all signed into Porcupine.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how exactly that's happening. I don't know if it's related to who we are. I don't know if it's related to software or hardware, but it's happening. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Mike 2. Mr. Nana.
Yeah, I have a privilege motion. I move we adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow to fix all of these issues.
Ooh. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded? Huh? Okay. And then it's not debatable, so we will have a vote. Okay. We're going to do a rising vote, and then we'll do a poll online. Okay? Just like we did before the recess. Go for it.
A point of information.
Mike 2.
All right, Matt Losby, North Carolina. I have a point of information regarding the nature of this vote. It's my understanding that we will both be doing a standing vote and a poll online. What procedures or systems do we have in place to prevent any confused delegate from accidentally voting twice?
Well, if we're doing a Zoom poll, only people who are on Zoom, so like that would probably be more of an issue with the Porcupine app, because everyone's using the Porcupine app at the same time. But since it's on Zoom, only those who are in the Zoom room can vote.
Can people in this room not join the Zoom call for whatever reason?
One moment. Let me respond to this privilege motion first. Let me think about that. You do have a point. So, raise your hand if you are currently in the Zoom room right now in this room. Huh? Okay. Well, we would do the vote via election buddy, so that way people can only vote once, and everyone will go to their email.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Okay. Now there's a point of order on mic 3.
Starchild from California. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there hasn't been a vote yet to allow online voting. I favor allowing online voting, but I don't believe there's been a vote yet to allow that. So calling the vote for people on Zoom at this point, I believe, would be incorrect, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And as stated before, right now I'm allowing online to participate based on the vote for the LNC. I do welcome somebody to make a motion to ratify or for everyone to confirm that we're allowing online voting. I do welcome that.
Was your decision on that appealed, Mr. Chair, and have we voted on that appeal?
We're trying to get to it. No one's called the question yet, and a new question about adjournment
Call
is
the
coming.
question, if I may.
Well, okay, that's fine. But first we have to do the vote on the adjournment, right? Okay, so for this vote, I want to ask the people who had their hands up to please log out of the Zoom for a moment. Okay. Okay, and again, we will revisit, if it's a close vote, we'll revisit it, but let's do a rising vote. Okay, well, actually, first, Mr. Fishman. Is Mr. Fishman online?
I am. Is the question, shall we adjourn till tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to launch that poll.
Just don't vote for it if you don't want to do it.
I'm going to launch the poll for the Zoom participants.
Huh? Oh, can you do an election buddy for that vote?
It would take me 30 minutes to set that up for election buddy.
Okay, so then I will rule that vote out of order until that time that it's possible.
I'll be prepared for that soon.
Mic number 2? Mic number 2?
Can you hear me? Point. Once again, the voting methods are set in our rules. You don't have the authority to delay a vote of this room until you think it's appropriate. The question's been called, I heard. If it's been called, it's time to come to a vote.
Okay, so...
And it's only the people in this room because only the people in this room, because that's the only people who can possibly have a voice vote here or a standing vote. It's just not possible through Zoom. The only impossibility we have today is this remote application. That's the thing that doesn't work. We can vote here today because we're here.
Okay. Cool. So we're going to move to a vote. Questions have been called. Okay. And I'll do the poll, and we'll see what the poll looks like. And I'm going to do the rising vote. And we'll see how it all looks like when we have both results in. Okay. So, Mr. Fishman?
I have launched the poll.
Launched the poll. Okay. And then everyone, if you want to adjourn to tomorrow at 9 a.m., rise now. Okay. And if you are in support, if you're against it, nay, rise now. Okay. And Mr. Fishman, do you have any data from online?
I do. We have 70% of the people have voted. I can give it 15 more seconds till 1 minute. And then I'll end it at 1 minute. I have 124 votes yes to adjourn and 249 votes no.
So the motion to adjourn has failed. Okay, and then all questions were called, so I have to move to a vote on all previous questions. Okay, so the next question to be called was the motion to overturn the ruling of the chair that a roll call vote to determine who is here in person is out of order. If you vote yes, you are voting to sustain my motion, and my motion will be sustained. If you vote no, you would overturn the motion, and then we would return to that motion, well, you would overturn my ruling, and we would return to that motion regarding a roll call vote count on the floor. Okay? So on that, Mr. Fishman, do you have a poll queued up?
I do indeed.
Oh, okay. So if you vote yes, you will sustain my motion. So a yes would be in support of my ruling it out of order. You'd be sustaining my ruling. My ruling. You'd be sustaining my ruling. If a yes vote, huh? The ruling is that a roll call vote would be out of order at this juncture. To count the people who are here physically present. Okay? So if you vote no, you would overturn my ruling, and then we would return to that motion to have the roll call vote. Okay? So if you want to sustain the ruling of the chair, so you want to sustain my ruling, rise now. Okay? Sustain my ruling. Okay? And if you want to overturn my ruling, rise. Ooh. Okie dokie. Okay. Huh? Yep. Yep. Just one more. I just want to get the results online just real quick. Wait, let me just see what it says, and we'll see what happens. Mr. Fishman.
Yes, we have 284 votes sustaining the ruling of the chair and 104 votes against the ruling of the chair.
I'm going to say that the ruling is overturned. I'm going to rule that the ruling is overturned. Overturned. We're going to go to each delegation chair and they're going to just give us a number. Okay, so, huh? Wait, come back to the mic, Mr. Molman, since this is your motion.
Where was this poll done?
Oh, well, basically, I had initially ruled it out of order, so now you're back to making the motion. Is the motion seconded?
No, so hang on a second. In-person standing vote ruling overturned. So this was the ruling that asking the overturn. Where was that vote held?
Huh?
Where was that vote held?
No. You wanted to do a roll call count of everyone on the floor.
Yeah.
And then I overturned, and we did a rising vote.
Wait, but
So you won.
We won. Oh, I won.
You won, yeah.
Oh, then okay.
You won.
I mean,
we can do it again.
I'm sorry. I'm fixing technical stuff, and I'm called to the mic. I don't know what's going
It's all
on.
good. No. We're proceeding with.
So now let's just do this.
We have to actually vote on the motion. We never voted on whether we wanted to do a roll call vote.
The people who vote are here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I see where we're at. I am arguing in favor of my motion. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes.
Chair? Thank you.
So Mr. Chair. Wait a minute. That is not debatable. That's not debatable. The roll call is not debatable. The roll call needs to just start. Yeah. It's either.
Well, okay, Aaron, let me process the motion that we had this overturned. We had a successful challenge. Let me address the motion that Mr. Molman wants to have done. Okay, Mr. Molman, speak to your motion.
I'm off. Okay. My goal here is to find out who is in this room. Because I don't know. I'm marked as remote. I'm not here. Just in case people are wondering, I'm not here. And so I'd like to know who's actually here. And I believe that's in order. So and I think we just decided it was.
First let me just take the point of order from Mike 3.
Mr. Chair, this is Will McVeigh from Delaware. All previous questions have been moved. I don't believe there should be any further debate before we clear the slate of all these nonsense votes.
Well done, sir.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to resolving the questions on the floor, so we're going to go to the next challenge. That's there. And then we'll just let Hogarth just mention one thing about the credentials report while I get the next challenge queued up.
Ken, I believe that you're operating under some misinformation. So I know that you have a concern, and it's a factual concern. When you say people are marked as pending or here or remote, that flag, as I've said 6 times at least at this mic, I know you've been busy, this flag is not relevant to this meeting. It's a developmental thing in process. It's not relevant. Everyone just needs to, the credentials committee, we had people sitting at tables all last night, well, all evening and all morning, working, checking the database, making sure that the delegates had been pre-verified or alternates, checking them in. We have those numbers. It has nothing to do with the Porcupine app. That doesn't tell us who is here in this hall. Wait. Mike. Oh, Mike 2, Mike 2. Mike 2.
So I just want to be very, very clear. What is listed in this app is not the authoritative list of delegates.
Oh, agreed, yes.
I just want to make darn sure that is absolutely clear, because that is causing a huge amount of confusion in the back.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We know who's here.
Okay, now back to resolving the questions on the floor. The next challenge, okay, is the roll call vote. Okay. Okay, so this one is basically I ruled that in these circumstances we would allow online people to vote through a ballot with the rising vote here on the floor. Mr. Starr challenged that motion. Okay, and again, all previous questions have been called, so we're going to go to a vote on it. And okay, so we will do this by a standing vote. Now, would people raising their hands simulate a standing vote? Well, actually, let me ask that question. Okay. So because online balloting is being challenged, only a rising vote will be counted for this particular challenge. Yes, Mr. Starr. Understood. Oh, Mike too?
Okay. So the way it works is that when you have a majority vote, you start off with a voice vote because you can determine in the room more yays than nays. If this was a 2/3 vote, I would agree with you 100% you do a standing. But what you do is you do a voice vote first. If it's not clear to you, you have a standing vote. And if it's not clear to you then you can have a counted vote.
I'm having a standing vote because the echo in this room makes it hard to truly hear a voice vote, as we saw earlier when we had to do a standing vote before the unclarity.
So try the voice vote first. If you're in doubt, do a rising vote. And if you're still in doubt, you do a counted vote. That's how it works.
Point of order, Mike 3.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Matt Hicks, South Carolina delegate. Question's been called. Why is he still talking?
Noted. Well,
I have a point of order from
appreciate the advice. We are going to be doing a rising vote. Okay? On all those who would want to sustain my ruling, so this would be to sustain my ruling, that I would allow online balloting to coincide with physical rising votes here. Okay, so that way we can allow everyone to participate. Rise in motion. Rise. Say yes to sustain. Rise now. Okay, if you vote. Okay, if you vote yes, you would sustain my ruling. My ruling would be to allow online balloting, along with, so that way online people can vote along with us in person. Okay, so they would basically vote in a poll on Zoom currently until app issues are resolved, and then everyone here would do a rising or voice vote, depending on the situation. That would be if you vote yes. If you vote no, that would overturn that ruling, and then you guys would have to re-enable that. Okay, and there's one last comment?
Yes, I was just wanting to make it. Your ruling is based off of the LNC's decision, correct? And so you would be overturning the LNC's decision to start off basically by overturning your ruling.
Mr. Reset,
It would
I have
just
a point of
overturn
information
the use
from
of balloting
from remote as well.
until it's re-enabled. Okay? If you vote yes to sustain my ruling, to mean to allow
Mr.
my
Merced,
ruling,
can you hear me in the room?
Huh? Yes, I
Can you hear me
Mr.
in the
Fishman.
room? I have a point of information from online as well.
Point of information? Recognized?
It's Mr. Perry. Let me unmute him.
Actually, I'm going to recognize Mr. Perry, and then we're going to go straight to the vote. Mr. Perry, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Merced, on the previous challenge to your ruling, the online vote was 284 in favor of your ruling, 184 opposed, and you said that your ruling was overturned. Were there more than 140 people in attendance that voted to overturn your ruling?
It was definitely almost unanimous. Yeah, it was pretty. So it was unanimous. So when you add the votes, it was overturned.
Okay, thank you.
The question was called.
Happens like Mike 1. There's like 20 people in line. There's like nobody in Mike 2.
Okay, I'll make sure to get back to Mike 1 as soon as after this vote.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So if you want to vote yes to sustain my ruling to allow online balloting to coincide with votes here in person, rising votes and voting voice votes, rise now. If you're voting aye. Okay. Okay, so let me say, so again, this is voting yes to sustain my ruling that will keep online balloting. Okay? Now, if you're voting, order, huh? Now, if you say no, which you would be overturning my ruling, and then online balloting will not be allowed until you guys re-enable it. Okay? Rise, if you Okay, let's do this over. Everyone sit down for a second. Everyone. Oh, no, we had to dispose of all the, so basically we had to call all the questions. So we're disposing of all the pending votes first. Okay. Order. Okay. If you want to say yes to sustain my ruling, rise now. My ruling yes to allow online balloting to coincide with in-person balloting. Okay. Now, go back down. Now, if you want to vote no to overturn my ruling, rise. And the ruling is overturned. Point of order, Ms. Adams, mic 1.
I mean,
Mic
I
one?
don't need it, I can yell. All of these votes are out of order. We have not yet accepted a credentials report. No delegate in this room is properly accepted by this body because we have not accepted the report. No delegate online is properly accepted by this body because we have not accepted that report. And all of this other business is out of order and improper.
Okay. Now, okay. No? Okay, mic 3. Yeah, mic 3.
Point of information, Bowen Chappell from Kansas. It's, as it was brought up with Zoom, can have people vote as a roll call, standing up, et cetera, like that, and they're still raising their hand on Zoom. That's capable. And then also the delegate sitting next to me earlier when he was using the Porcupine app, he voted abstain. This was a while ago. And he was the only person who voted abstain at that time, and he refreshed the page and could not see his own vote. We cannot trust it.
Oh, understood. I mean, right now, I was using Zoom polling while the app issues were resolved. Now, before I do that, we called all questions. I just want to make sure that there's no other questions pending before we move forward. Okay. Got it. All previous questions have been called, which means that also includes, so technically we need the, huh? Say it again? Oh yeah, and we still have Angela's motion still pending. Yes. So, okay, so technically, even though we overturned the ruling on Ken Molman, is he allowed to make the motion even though we had to resolve all the other questions first? Because technically he didn't get to make his motion because I ruled it out of order. Now, but all questions have been called, so while it was overturned. I think it's too late to go back to that. Okay. I didn't follow it that well, but I know we haven't disposed of Angela. Yeah, yep. So we'll go to Angela's motion next. Okay. So next would be. Yep. Okay. So next would be, well, because the thing is, well, let me just ask one more time about the yes. Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so we will vote on Mr. Molman's motion. Okay, and again, all questions have been called.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Now, if you want to say yes to Mr. Molman's motion, okay, which is, again, he moved to do a roll call state-by-state vote of those who are here in attendance, okay, which again, well, basically the question's been called. So if you want to say yes to that, we'll do a voice vote. Say
Are we
aye.
muted?
Say aye.
Alex, are we muted?
Say it again.
Oh, God damn it.
Oh, too late. I'm already in the middle of it. Okay, let's do it again. If you say aye Voice vote? So that's for a roll call vote. Okay. Let's make sure. Now, if you're against the roll call vote, vote aye. Okay, so then the ayes have it. We will do... What?
I still have an unrecognized point of order.
Yeah, I don't think they can hear us. Mr. Merced, can you hear us online? I've asked Ken to make sure that we are unmuted.
And well, we know which way Ken would prefer us to stay.
I will need to mute you for comments like that.
All right, sorry.
Keep it.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I did aye first. Okay. Yep. Oh, okay. So I'll do that again. Yes.
Please clearly restate what we're voting on, because people are obviously confused and all. Please clearly state what means what.
So so here we go. We're now voting on Mr. Molman's motion to move for a roll call state by state in order to attain who is here in attendance. So we'd go state by state and count who is here physically. If you are in support of that, say aye. If you stand opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, so we will do a roll call vote, state by state. Okay. Mr. Molman, how would you like to conduct your roll call vote? Yep, Mr. Requero.
Omar, order delegation. Mr. Chair, just have everyone check in with their state delegation chair.
All right, thanks,
have
Ken.
them check in with the secretary. Easy peasy.
They can
10
hear us.
minutes,
Okay,
15
thank you.
minutes.
Okay.
That's my
Thank you.
suggestion.
Say it again. Can you repeat that?
Have everyone check in with their state delegation chair. State delegation chair checks in with the secretary or with Ms. Hogard. It should be done in 15 minutes.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Starr?
If the motion was
I
to
see
do
you
a
there,
roll
Ken.
call, you do a roll call. The way you'll handle that is
Mr. Merced,
right
can
now
you
the
hear me?
Credentials Committee does have a list. They can take each state one at a time. I suggest alphabetically and call out the names, see who's here, or get the secretary or
Merced, can you
get
hear
that
me?
state chair to confirm that that person's here, and we will have a list when we're all said and done. If she's missing names, it will be added. If there are names that don't belong there,
Ken is
they'll
going to
be
go find the
subtracted.
AV people to try to figure out why they can't hear us now.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Ms. Hogarth, would you be able to do the roll call? I think they want. I think that's what they want.
Can somebody from any of the microphones confirm that the Zoom is being heard?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
I can hear you, Dan. And we're just figuring out the roll call at the moment.
I just want to make sure you'd heard the point of order from
Okay.
the Zoom room
of
about
order?
15 minutes ago.
Okay, recognized?
Yes, I had a point of order that you voted on the appeal of the ruling of the chair, and you did not let all delegates vote. It seems like we were all voting, and then at some point we slipped into only the rump in-person convention gets to vote. I'm not sure how that happened, but we never voted to do it. And we did not, the ruling of the chair was not put up to a vote of all delegates who have answered the call to convention and are here present and participating.
Okay, one more.
Please don't bring up lists of names to me yet, at all. I have all your names.
Oh, Mr. Craig, I'm confirmed with the parliamentarian. I will come back to you on your point of order. So I will get back to you. Just give me 1 minute.
No, I'm done. I just said don't bring. I'm not chairing. I can't recognize you. If you have a credentialing question, come up here and ask me. I'm not chairing the meeting. All right. keep it. Thanks. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. I got that note and I pass it on to the technical people. You are chair. We're just talking about in the app. You're just take care of your people. If there's a vote, no, I do not bring paper to the don't. I'll burn it. If we have a roll call vote, we're going to have a roll call vote. So, I'm just going to, the reason I'm saying don't bring pieces of paper is because I got the name of every person checking in when they checked in at the credentials desk. That's what the credentials desk was for. I'm satisfied with that. If we have a roll call vote, if the body wants, I will read off 1,034 names and then the several hundred alternates, and we'll see which of those people are in the hall. Apparently, that's what is wanted. That's what a roll call is. I know. Okay. That's for the chair to determine. I'll do what the chair tells me. But I don't want pieces of paper. When we determine how we can do the roll call by state, then just keep that there. I don't want to be responsible for information I don't know how to shepherd. I'm not chairing this meeting. We're in recess while the chair speaks to the parliamentarian. So don't scream point of order. It's not helping. Just not helping. Just don't. We have not determined how the roll call vote will proceed. So please don't send me lists. Don't bring me pieces of paper. When we decide how it will proceed, then everyone will do it the same way so that there's minimal confusion. Hey. I can check any name on the list. So this is how business gets done. Some people whisper on one side and the other side, and it's all going to get fucked up. And I'm not making a parliamentary argument. I'm making a technical argument. I don't want pieces of paper from some people and other people.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to recognize Mimi Robeson to assist with the roll call vote. Okay, so Mimi Robeson, you are recognized.
Mr. Chair, do you have a ruling for my point of order?
I'm still working on that. I just want to make
All right, thank you.
I just want to make sure that I give you a thoughtful answer. Oh, mic two? Mic two?
Okay, so I'm just clarifying, and I just spoke to the chair about this. Where we're at right now is the motion that passed is that the roll call vote is state by state. It's not all the people. Each delegation chair needs to create a list of their delegates here. That was Ken Mulman's motion. So each delegation chair needs to create a list, and then it will be recognized state by state in alphabetical order. Each delegation chair will go to the mic, say how many people they have, and those people. That will happen state by state, and then the secretary will tally the number, and that will be given to the Credentials Committee. That was the motion that was made. The chair asked me to explain it because he did. So I'm going to ask at this time, Mr. Chair, Kiernan, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask at this time that we recess for 15 minutes for each delegation chair to create their list for the roll call.
What we'll do is we'll remain at ease for 15 minutes while everyone works with the roll call.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Craig, I'm still working on your response, so it's forthcoming.
Thank you.
Huh? Do we have paper? Not today. What's the announcement? I know, but we got a lot of you guys done today. We'll see how things go. Let me get through this next time.
I'm not sure still how they're going to handle it.
Okay.
Mr. Merced.
Yep.
This gentleman would like to speak with Mr. Molman.
Yep.
If there's some way he could be.
Yep. Can Mr. Molman come up to the podium? And also, just update, Mr. Craig, I do have a ruling for you. I will issue that ruling after we're done with the roll call, so that way we can all process the ruling and play out things together. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm ready for it.
Okay. If your delegation chair is online, they can get a count of the physical people that they know are here in attendance and get that number to the secretary. And for Connecticut, Mr. Long will take care of it.
Just checking in, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Oh, so here we go. We're still working on getting all the final roll calls set up. Now, Mr. Fishman, did you want to say something before I was going to say something?
I just wanted to explain that we are actively working on the Porcupine app. However, we have an alternative for tomorrow. If we can't bring the Porcupine app, we will go back to the rigorous usage of
Mr. Fishman,
Zoom.
Can we make that announcement once the roll call is over, just so that way everyone's
Sure.
listening? Okay. Now, with that, while
I do have several people waiting with points of order.
Say it again?
I do have several people waiting with points of order.
Okay. Well, we'll take that up in a moment. But while I have everyone here, while we're at ease, I'm going to recognize Spike Cohen to speak to the body, vice presidential candidate. Spike Cohen to speak to the body for a moment while we're at ease. Yep. So here's Spike Cohen.
Hey, how's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? Thank you, thank you. I'm clapping for you. I'm clapping for you. Thank you. Yeah, no, the shirt's staying on. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. The shirt has to stay on. I'm actually contractually obligated. The shirt has to stay on, so I apologize in advance. Anyone who thought that was happening, I want to go ahead and just knock down your expectations right off the bat. Folks, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I essentially just got here, so I'm not 100% sure on what's going on. I just wanted to come up. It sounds like you guys have it under control, which is great. Really, it looks like everything is really calm and under control, which is 100% what I expected when I got here. So I'm really happy to hear that. Folks, I just came up real quickly to say that look around for a moment. One of you is not going to make it. No. What I would like to say. You don't volunteer as tribute? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's actually the one who doesn't volunteer that gets it. But if you look around, this is obviously different times, right? Like, this is not what any of us wanted. Any of the people here, any of the people that are online, I don't know where the camera is, but if any of the online people, love you. None of us expected what's happening right now. We have some serious, unprecedented stuff that is happening that has created the situation that we're in right now. And I usually would go into a very long diatribe as to why this is the government's fault, but I won't do that. Instead, because we already all know it's the government's fault, I'm going to just say that because we're in this situation, because we're in a situation where entire states aren't even represented here in person, I am encouraging everyone right now to consider the idea of what happens if we don't allow the same people that participated in May to participate now, and what that would lead to, what that would make the party end up looking like. Okay. I'm not a fan of this compromise. No one that I know of is truly a fan of this compromise. Okay, no one said, you know what, let's make a thing that makes everyone equally pissed off, right? Like, no one wanted it like this. We all would prefer to be able to have it 100% in person, if at all possible. There are some people that would love to have where we have an online component moving forward, which is something that we can debate in the future. But that's not where we are right now. People aren't home largely because of their own personal preferences. They're home because of a combination of mandates and laws in their states that would make it functionally impossible for them to come here and go back and live their lives, or because of the fact that they may be sick, or that they fear getting sick. There's a whole host of reasons why it is like this. And so I am encouraging you to keep with the compromise that we have going forward. Again, this is someone that didn't like the compromise saying this. I'm encouraging you to keep with the compromise going forward. If you are upset about the way in which that compromise was introduced, it seems slightly dilatory, but if you'd like to do that, if you want to strike down that compromise and vote for the compromise happening at the will of the delegates as opposed to the LNC, I'm sure that will be a fun time had by all. And if you would prefer to just, in your approval, this was something that one of the LNC members brought up, censure the LNC for doing it, but move forward on it. I think that even if you're upset at the process by which it happened, we have to look at the fact that there are entire states that aren't here, and that we could potentially be looking at the first steps that lead to the party not functionally existing as a 50-state party anymore. And I think our concerns right now outweigh the other concerns. And again, I am saying this as someone who did not want this. So I am just here to, and I want to close on saying, remember, we're all here for the same reasons. We are all here to challenge the cult of the omnipotent state. We are all here to put people in office that are going to completely change the conversation away from what the Republicans have created. But also, we're here to change the cultural conversation. And part of that cultural conversation is demonstrating that we don't need government to functionally operate. So let's prove that. Let's prove that we don't need government to functionally operate. So that's pretty much all I came up here to say. I promise you, if you wanted to hear me talk a lot this weekend, you'll get many more chances for that. But I just wanted to encourage everyone to remember that we are all here out of love, and we are all here out of a desire to dismantle systems that are infringing upon all of us. And let's focus on doing that, and let's get to work. Thank you again.
Hear, hear.
Okay, got it. So while the roll call vote is still underway, we're going to just kind of get moving along. Well, I do have a point of order I got to resolve first. Okay. And I may as well just put this out there so that way you guys know what my ruling is on this. And again, the point of order was regarding the vote that basically, well, you guys overturned my ruling regarding rising votes. The point of order from Mr. Craig is regarding the basically why couldn't the online delegates participate in that vote? And I've been sitting here thinking about it. Bottom line is, the credentials, I can't, in good conscience, make a ruling that doesn't try to allow everybody at the table. And I have to rule that the credentials report that has all of our delegates, all of our compatriots on there is the credentials report. And to bridge the rights of somebody on that credentials report to participate is something I just have to, and I know it feels like we're going in circles, and I apologize. Order. But that point of order is made, and I understand it's going to get challenged. But that is the ruling I make, that is a credentials report, and I can't abridge the rights of those who are on the credentials report. I just can't. And, okay. Working on it?
So, Mr. Chair, point of information, just to clarify your ruling, are you sustaining my objection? Are you agreeing with me, or are you not agreeing with my objection?
Oh, I'm agreeing with your objection.
Okay, well then I don't need to appeal. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And yep, Mr. Starr? Mic 2? Mic 2? Mic 2? Microphone 2?
I have Mr. Lawhorn on deck as well, remote.
They're working on it. Oh, and can you also turn on the secretary's screen? Put the screen on the screen.
I appeal the ruling of the chair. This body gets to make this decision. The chair does not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have to dispose of the challenge before I can take on any other points of order. So, okay. Huh? Okay, so let's talk. So now we're on to debate on the point on the challenge. Yep, microphone 3.
Oh, okay, it's working.
Mr.
All right.
Reset.
Nadine Frost. I'm a delegate from the state of Delaware. I am the chair of the Newcastle County Libertarian Party. I just want to make a statement about the sentiments in general. First of all, I'd like everyone to know that I have 2 beautiful grandchildren. The youngest one, at the ripe old age of 2 years and 3 months, can now say tactation if fef. So I'm very proud of her. And I have a responsibility to her and her sister and their mother and their father to make sure that they grow up in a free America. And it is for that reason that I am even here. In case anyone's unaware of this, we are all on record as being diametrically opposed to a tyrannical, omnipresent state. And at the way that things are going now, there's going to come a time when what few safeguards our founders gave us are gone. And make no mistake, when that happens, we're the first ones that are going to be on the boxcars. So we really have something to fight for, okay? Now, as far as Robert's Rules of Order, I'm terrible at it. My dog literally ate my copy. I have to keep asking my secretary what is and is not allowable. But before Colt ate my volume, I was able to read the history of Robert's Rules of Order. Roberts was a military man who basically went around, looked at how different organizations operated, and codified a set of general principles of how things were done. They are not set in stone. They are a guideline, and they are a good guideline. But I want everyone who wants...
It's out of order making a point of order from the...
I want everyone who cares about our future to stop and think what our goal is. Our goal is freedom. Our goal is to maintain our liberty. And anything that stands between us and that goal is a problem. So I would ask that anyone that would prefer arguing over minor, minuscule rules versus our future, stop and consider what's truly important. Is it splitting hairs over points of order, or our grandchildren?
Ma'am, this is not germane to the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mike 1.
Mike 1. Joe Burns, Texas. Speaking for Mr. Starr's, I guess, objection. Forgive me if I don't have the wording right. And to address Mr. Cohen's very salient points, I would hope that the body, specifically the body at home that feels they're being disenfranchised by attempts to remove their ability to vote in this process at this point, I would hope that they understand that many of us that are temporarily voting to only allow in-person delegates to handle a couple of items before then voting to bring them back in, understand, I hope that they understand Our goal has nothing to do with disenfranchising our fellow freedom fighters. But it is based on the very real possibility that the army of lawyers that the GOP or the Dems will send at us to try to invalidate Mr. Cohen and Mr. Jorgensen's status as legitimate nominees needs to be insured against in the best way that we can do that. We need to preemptively prevent any possible challenge they might throw at us if they feel the need to do so. And I have sort of a point of information here. I know many of you may not have heard Richard Brown. You may not know who he is, our parliamentarian here. He spoke earlier today, and I think a lot of people didn't get a chance to hear him. And I would ask Mr. Brown if he would once again repeat his recommendation to this body. And while you may not, because far be it from me to accuse myself of ever being the voice of reason, while you may not trust my intentions, I would hope that you trust Mr. Brown. This guy's our paid parliamentarian for how long? And can anyone say that his intention is to disenfranchise anyone? So I would like to hear his plan again, and I would like to hear discussion about why we shouldn't follow his paid recommendation to us for how we can best handle this.
Mr. Chair, I have several points, interruptible points from the Zoom room.
So let me go online. So
briefly, Mr. Chair, if there's an appeal of the ruling in my favor, I would like to speak to the appeal.
Oh wait, point of order on from online.
First, we have Andy Craig speak, but we also have Darrell Perry with a point of personal privilege. One moment.
Pardon me, Mr. Fishman, but I've been waiting for 4 hours.
Mr. Lawhorn has been waiting with a regular motion, and Mr. Perry's point of personal privilege is, why is the Zoom microphone not being called on? So Mr. Lawhorn has been waiting for a very long time.
I'm doing my best to cycle through. I'm doing my best to cycle through the microphones. That's all I can say. I'm doing the best I can.
Mr. Perry has a point of personal privilege.
Okay, go for it. Mr. Perry?
Mr. Perry, are you there? I have Chris Lyons with a point of order. One moment. Chris Lyons, you're ready to go.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this contentious point about being in person or online was first mooted several months ago. I did some research on the legality of what it means from a government regulatory body point of view.
Mr. Perry, you have a lot of
participating in votes, decision making via teleconferencing or through video conferencing. And there is case law that's applicable for over 20 years that it's conceived by the government regulatory bodies that those who actually partake either through teleconferencing or through video conferencing as being physically there. So the idea that allowing remote representatives to not participate because the Democrats and Republicans may use it against our presidential and vice presidential candidates does not hold muster. Thank you.
I have Mr. Wendt with a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fishman and Mr. Chair. My point of order is that to reiterate Mr. Sarwark's point that the parliamentarian should not be engaging in debate. The parliamentarian should be advising the chair parliamentary procedures. I raise this that it is out of order for the parliamentarian to take the mic.
Okay.
And then lastly, Mr. Perry, if his microphone is working.
Okay, well,
yes, I am unmuted.
Okay.
My point of personal privilege is,
wait, guys.
Since you know that there are way more
can you mute the mic? Okay. So bottom line, right now we have a challenge on the floor. So before I can resolve the appeal of a ruling on the floor, I got to resolve that before I can take on more points of order. I indulge, but we got to finish this before I can take on more points of order because there might be future challenges, and this challenge has got to be resolved before those challenges. Mike 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin Moore, California delegate here. I have been waiting patiently for the last 7 hours, along with many other people, opportunity to vote to include our fellow delegates from other locations in this proceeding here. That's what I intend to do. I understand it's necessary to follow the right process, but I'm hoping that both the chair and that the people remotely will trust us, that we are planning on doing the right things. I agree with everything that Spike just said a few moments ago, that it is essential that we include the delegates from New York and other states that cannot appear here now. But there's a process we have to follow, and as was mentioned before, it's not appropriate for the chair to make that decision for all of us. Trust the delegates to do the right thing. We're going to do the right thing. We just need to get to that vote. I encourage the chair to withdraw your ruling and change it to allow the vote to happen among the delegates here, or if not, I call the question.
Okay, call the question. Okay, so let's have a vote. Okay, so we're going to vote on the appeal of the ruling. Okay, and again, my ruling is that the credentials report is the list of credential delegates. And I cannot abridge, I'm not going to abridge the right of any of the delegates in the credentials report. Okay, got it. All those in favor of closing debate, rise. Okay, and Mr. Fishman, can you do an online ballot? Oh. Okay, well, let's just... Okay, and then those who vote against, nay, rise. The ayes have it. Okay, we will go to a vote. Okay. For this, yes, Mr. Fishman, please do a ballot for
Mr. Chair,
the...
why are the remote participants not getting to vote here?
One moment.
I'm online, Alex, yes.
This is...
This is supporting
Okay,
the
so
ruling
we
of the
won't do a
chair
balloted
that the
vote.
online delegates can vote.
We'll do hand raises. Okay. No, it's going to be just a hand raise, sit up, sit down. Okay. So, Mr. Fishman.
Yes, sir.
Can you keep an eye on the hands in the attendance list?
Yes, I can send out a poll for this.
Oh, yeah.
This is, do you support the ruling of the chair that online delegates as credentialed can vote?
Can you turn on mic 2?
Hello. Can I ask a point of information?
Sure.
Didn't we vote to not allow the online ballot?
This is not an online ballot. It's a hand raise, so it's the same as if you stood up, stood down. It's different because it's not a counted ballot.
Oh. This is out of order.
We just overturned a ruling.
Yes.
Okay, fine. We will just do a standing vote. So. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm going with it. Okay. So for those who want to sustain my ruling, which would say that the credentials report is the credentials report, and that I'm not going to bridge the right of any of those on the credentials report, rise now and aye. Yep, no, if you're voting yes to sustain my ruling, so if you're voting yes now, rise to sustain my ruling. And if you're voting to overturn my ruling, then rise. Okay. Where's Mr. Requero? Can I borrow Mr. Requero for a bit?
Mr. Chair, I'm also running a poll for this in Zoom.
Yep, and then give me one moment. Is Omar Requero in the room?
We're one jaw rule away from Firefest.
Is Omar Requero in the room?
Hold your breath.
I'm going to have to mute you guys.
No, we're talking.
Oops.
Omar. Okay. Here's the deal. This is gonna go on forever. I mean, I'm not gonna rule any differently than I ruled because out of respect for those participating online. So what I'm gonna do, so we can move forward, I'm gonna pass the gavel to Mr. Requero to get through the credentials report. Because you guys know how I'm gonna rule, and we're just gonna keep going back and forth. So I'm gonna let you guys get through this, and I want to pass it on to Mr. Requero.
You still want the result of this vote, correct?
Say it again?
You still want the vote, the support of this. You want the result of this vote, correct?
I'll listen to the results, but technically they did overturn me earlier. They overturned my, so basically right now I can't do online balloting.
Are you going to count our votes or not?
I currently can't, and that's why I'm going to pass on to Requero, because I mean, as long as you guys can't participate, I can't in good conscience run this meeting while you guys can't participate. So I'm passing it on to Mr. Requero. Right now, what orders of the day? So basically, I think we need to wrap up the roll call and Ms. McCardle's motion.
$80 of online delegates voted to sustain the ruling of the chair.
All right, guys. Sorry, I don't want to assume gender. My name is Omar Requero. I'm a Florida delegate, and Mr. Merced is asking for a bit of assistance, so bear with me. Where we are at right now is we just voted to overturn the ruling of the chair, and we are back to the moment.
No, we have not.
Where was that from?
The 85% of us online who voted to sustain the ruling of the chair.
We sustained the ruling of the chair? Okay, so the polls are not in order online right now.
Why not?
Point of order.
Yeah. So the secretary is informing me that that's what the record says. It's not her opinion. Who is calling for a point of order? Because it's kind of hard to see with these lights up here. Microphone 3. State your name and delegation, please, before when you call a point of order.
This is Rufus Craig, Louisiana. It's really not a point of order. I just want Mr. Perry and the people in the Zoom world to know I walked up and down every aisle in this hall, and I found one person that said they might not be in favor of remote participation. So would y'all please be quiet for a minute and let us finish our business?
Let us participate in our business.
Seriously.
Point of order.
Okay. Point of order.
Point of order.
Mr. Lawhorn, Oklahoma.
Who's calling for a point of order? Mike 3, go ahead.
Mike 3. A point of personal inquiry. I'm not sure that it's appropriate for someone who is not a delegate to be addressing the body unless the body has agreed to hear them.
We're trying to get there.
We are all delegates.
Point of order,
I don't believe Dan Fishman is a
motion was
delegate.
To remove the voting rights of the individuals online.
He cannot
not
legally
remove the
be a delegate
delegation
under our
status.
rules.
Point of order, there are no recognized delegates until the credential report is recognized, so we are delegates. Thank you.
All right, guys. Everyone, please listen to me. Hold on. Everybody, listen to me. Let's have silence. We are going to get there. The points that have been made about who's in the room, everyone keeps coming to the microphone, here and online, and we're never going to get there. Let's get there. The moment motion, in my opinion, gets us there. So let's execute it. Madam Secretary, where are we with that? And Ms. Hogarth, that's a question for you or Ms. Hogarth? Should we be at ease? Should we be at ease?
And I don't know, you'll need to ask Ms. Hogarth.
Ms. Hogarth?
I'll figure out the roll call. Just focus on everything other than the roll call.
Okay. So while we are getting up to date as to where we are, Ms. Hogarth, the chair of credentials, is trying to get us the information that we need. We will entertain points of privilege and announcements. No motions, no business. That understood? All right. We will start with anybody over here on microphone 1. It's actually kind of hard to see.
I had a point of information.
Point of information from?
Joe Burns, Texas.
Is that microphone 1?
Yes, mic 1.
Go ahead.
My question is, earlier when I had asked if we could hear from Richard Brown, I know someone objected based on the fact that parliamentarians not allowed to debate. But at past conventions, I've heard the body request advice from Mr. Brown. I don't believe Mr. Brown, what he said before, amounts to engaging in debate. I think it's simply Roner-based advice for how we should proceed to achieve the goal that I think we all want. So my point of information is, why can't we hear from him? Willing to speak?
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second to resolve this point of information. So it was a recommendation by Mr. Brown as to how we should proceed. I believe that we are trying to do that. It's not. Yeah, I get it. Let's resolve. Your point of information is going to have to. Let's resolve this, and then it might resolve the point of information.
Mics are on a hen's ass.
Microphone number 2, Mr. Starr.
Request for information. I'd like you to please confirm this. My understanding is that it wasn't the chair or the LNC that hired the parliamentarian. It was actually the Convention Oversight Committee hired the parliamentarian specifically to serve as the parliamentarian for the delegates as a whole. This parliamentarian actually is not there to advise the chair unless he wants to, but this parliamentarian actually is here to serve the rest of us. That's my understanding. Can you please confirm that with a member of the Convention Oversight Committee. That's my request for information.
Yes. Well, the answer that I'm getting from the parliamentary is yes.
Thank you.
Microphone number 3.
Bowen Chapel from Kansas. I am looking at the Arkansas Senate race, national. We have a Libertarian and a Republican. There is not a Democrat in this race because their candidate withdrew without being sick or injured, and he did not leave the state. Therefore, they do not have the bylaws to let them run another candidate. They do not have a candidate in this race because they'd break their bylaws if they did.
Okay, was that just an announcement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Microphone number 2.
Personal privilege, Carol Unsicker from the state of Texas. I would like to reassure those people that are online, we are trying our best to get this rectified so you guys will get credentialed, but we're trying to safeguard those Pandora boxes that the ugly people who could sue us and say you guys aren't real. Y'all are real. I just wanted to reassure we are trying to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 1.
I know. I've been actually here for a while. So, hi, I'm Matthew Long. I'm the only delegate here in Connecticut. Here from Connecticut. I just want to say, on behalf of the from all the Connecticut delegation, that we're fine with whatever this body does. Let's just do it quickly.
Thank you. Is there anyone else seeking to be recognized? I don't see anyone here. 2, or it's hard to see. Microphone 3. Okay, microphone number 3.
Hi. Oh, Melissa from South Carolina.
You're
I
recognized.
just have a question. I've got my list of delegates. What
come,
do I do?
Come over here to the desk, please.
Thank you.
Microphone number 2, Mr. Nikila.
Mr. Okoye, I'd like to call the question.
The question has been called, Mr. Nikila. What we're doing is we're resolving the Momen vote, and right now we're just hearing announcements and points of privilege.
Oh,
no
okay.
business.
And that question, I would like to speak.
Say it again.
I would like to speak for a second then.
You'd like to?
I would like to speak for a second.
Okay. There's an echo here.
Yeah. Let me stand back from the mic. Maybe it'll be a little better. Anyway, all I want to say is, and I've explained this to my Florida delegation that's in person, and I've explained this to my Florida delegation that is currently sitting online. And what I've told everybody is that the reason there seems to be a miscommunication as to what the goal here is right now. And the goal is not to disenfranchise our members who are being seated online. Our goal is to make sure we follow our own bylaws to make sure that those bylaws are rock solid so that we don't run into any situation later on with our nominees. And the way that we get there is that we are going to substitute the credentials report for the names that are being turned in. From that point, we will be able to move on to an agenda. We'll have to have our online friends momentarily not be recognized because it'll be out of order. At that point, we would move on to the agenda. We would vote to allow for a bylaws amendment to allow for electronic voting, and then we would allow our online participants to be seated at convention. So in essence, they're still in their cars coming along the way. Then once their electronic voting is established and we can seat them, then at that point we'll all be aligned online and in person to allow them to participate. That's the goal. I want everybody to be on the same page so we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I have news. All right, so this is what we're going to do. First off, I want to say that Ms. Adams came to me and wanted me to remind everybody that there are 2 bars here in the back of the room. And we as Libertarians, we love our... So we gotta, we gotta pay the bill. That's the first thing. Second thing is we're going to be at ease for 10 minutes. When we come back from ease, the results will be displayed on the screen, and we will know who is here once and for all and be able to accept the credentials report and get on with it. So, the time is now 4:44. We will be back here at, call it, 4:55. Thank you.
You can't mid.
Huh?
It's mid. He passed the gap.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm not gonna be able to finish the credentials report like with the way things were going because my rulings are gonna keep getting challenged. I have a particular reading of how I think things should be, and clearly it's in contrast with the body in this room, and it's just. I'm just helping trying to coordinate.
You weren't here while he was talking.
Oh, I was just telling him.
I mean, he still needs to get it to me, but just saying, there's other people who are waiting too.
Are we ready? Let me know when we're ready.
Still going to be another few minutes. I would move to the extension of time now, and then at least for another 5.
Okay. If I can have everyone's attention, please. We need a little bit more time. So at this moment in time, I'm being told microphone 2 has a motion to extend time because we are running on orders. We are running against orders of the day, which are to adjourn at 5 p.m. Microphone 2.
Mark Tanser from Florida, move to extend time until 6 o'clock, right? Yes?
There is a motion to move to extend time until 6 p.m. and it's been seconded. Is this debatable, Madam Chair? It's a privileged motion, right?
It's not privileged. One moment.
Give me 1 second. This is not privileged. I thought. Oh, it is debatable because it's to extend time without notice, right? I'm going to let everyone know if you want to debate this, we're going to burn clock. So just letting you know. Microphone number 2.
Point of personal privilege. The regional meetings start at 6, so we need to leave at least time, like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something, for people to get from here over to their regional meetings.
Yeah, that's why we're doing 6. Thank you.
Well, if it's 6, shouldn't it be 5:45 so people have time to get to those meetings?
I mean, at any point in time, someone can motion to adjourn, so let's get through this, and then maybe we'll get out of here before 6. That's my advice. Thank you. Mr. Smith. Oh, yeah, come. Josh, by the way, listen. Yeah. Is that microphone 1?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We do not have an agenda, so there are no point orders of the day.
Are you calling for orders of the day?
No, I'm saying we don't have an agenda, so there are no orders of the day.
Yeah. So this motion is moot? We don't have an end time. So are we setting an end time? Okay, give me 1 second. There's a motion in a second. We're in a debate here. Do we have to withdraw and act?
No, I would simply at this point that you're mistaken since we do not have an agenda and it's not in order.
Okay.
The only thing people can do is move to set an end time. Maybe that's what he wants.
Okay. Okay, I'm being informed that this is out of order because we're still trying to get the credentials information sorted out because we can't vote because we don't know who's in the room. So we will be at ease until we get this sorted out, and we will get it sorted out. Thank you, everyone.
So what would be in order is someone to move to set an end time.
Okay, well, let's not do that right now.
But I'm just saying, it's really the same thing, but just worded.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Makes sense, but let's not do that right now. Let's
Yeah,
not.
no problem.
I don't like to put ideas in people's heads.
Yeah, and if you need this, it's tabbed. If you.
Yes.
But I would take Mr. Montoni's statements to
Mike
the
one.
echo.
The audio guys say they can't change the echo because the acoustics.
Right. So
Yeah, and I was told that because we're in a concrete bunker here.
so a lot of names aren't showing up on screen. They'll be in the final minutes when I listen to the recording and investigate. But like move to extent, I didn't have no idea who that is.
Oh,
couldn't
that
hear
was
him.
Mark Tanzer from Florida.
Spell his last name.
Tancer.
Okay.
I do know a lot of delegates. I've gotten to know people from.
They're cross-checking some names real fast because they had duplicate sheets in there. So.
Okay.
So they're almost done.
I told a lot of the states take a photo of the thing before you give it to students, so you don't have to write it twice. And that may have been what happened. Someone may have wrote it twice and handed it to us.
That's possible. So they're double checking that to make sure.
Okay. We'll get through this. Teamwork makes it.
There's been some talk about a motion to remove Alex from presiding. I don't think it's once we're past this.
Once we're past this, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And that's what I
because we'd have to elect the chair pro tem, which I'm not really interested in doing because I want to help you out, but geez. Let's just get some other sucker in there.
No, once it's done here, he's the vice chair. It is his.
Yeah, and I'm reading the room. People want to go. So. And they like the alcohol announcement, so that tells me they want to go. It's 5 o'clock already.
Well, you should have made that announcement 2 hours ago.
Yeah, you're right.
Listen, I didn't know until a while ago I didn't even know we had water, let alone booze.
Well, he was sitting on the
Aaron
announcement for a couple
Aaron
hours.
handed me this a while ago, and we just had because of everything that was going on, I couldn't hand it off to Alex.
And I've got a high frequency hearing loss between the echo and being back here.
And the lights are killing me.
In the future, and maybe for other conventions, just like at concerts when musicians have their own speakers, we may need future conventions a little speaker directed up at us so we can clearly hear.
Well, the echoing is my murder. So. But I also see, what we need to do also, at least for tomorrow, is if the mics on 1 and 3 are being blocked by the view by these posts,
Let's move them.
Recite them, yeah. Matter of fact, let's do that right now.
I'm glad that I'm glad that Aaron Starr made the point he did, wanting me to confirm that I was hired not just to represent the chair, but to represent the delegates.
Yeah.
To serve the delegates, which is exactly true, and that's exactly what I was told.
Yeah, but at the same time, how you do that is by making even the chair advise on proper procedure and effective rights of the members.
Yeah.
So what he was saying was true, but at the same time, he was just bitching because because that's what he does. Hopefully they get that sorted out. Would the chair of Nevada please come to the podium?
Could I have either the chair or someone from the following states bring me a list of their delegates? Idaho, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, I have to say this has been a very interesting exercise. Yeah, those states. Yeah, I need the names of your present delegates. Probably. I mean, okay.
That's just surprising.
I know Susan. Susan.
I hear.
Susan.
Oh.
Idaho. Texas. Okay.
How many names?
Two. David Hines and Aaron Bush. Okay, because there was one of the states you called out, I think.
Oh, okay. So something came up.
Well,
I'm gone. What am I supposed to do with this? Are we gonna just like? No, I'm done.
are we gonna take it?
Did you want me to do a take a photo scan, or is it?
I mean, I don't. My battery's probably dying, so yeah.
Yeah, and then email it to me.
Okay.
Here, let's do one at a time. Yes. Wait. Hang on one sec. I would just like to thank Brad Lammy from Texas, who's here for his first convention and just spent the last hour or so helping do that roll call. Thank you, Brad. That's how you. Way to go. Yeah.
Procedurally, that may be a problem, but
Yeah, I'm not going to do it anyway, but thank you. I understand your point, but no.
I understand.
Ms. Hogarth.
Aside from
Susan, one of your guys from South Carolina, I think his name is
North
Hopper.
Carolina. Yeah,
North
Jonathan
Carolina?
Hopper. Mhm.
Yeah, he says he's going to take care of you later. Food, drinks, you name it.
I'm collecting
It's-
beverage
yeah,
tickets.
you name it. He says they're going to take care of you later on. He just wanted me to let you know that kind of,
I always just confuse questions myself.
there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And I can just imagine other people's symptoms. So it's like there's all this suffering in my head.
Could you ask them to turn my screen off? I don't want my personal emails on the screen.
To the AV team in the back, can we pause screen sharing for just a moment, please? Hang on, Ms. Harless. Yeah, hold on. Once again, I'm asking the AV team, please, can we pause screen sharing from the secretary? Thank you.
Who knows what somebody would have emailed me with some kind of title. Okay, what is it? I don't see it. Oh, who emailed this to me? Alex. What email address did you send it to? Okay, because I don't have it. Maybe they'll resend it.
To the AV team in the back, we'd like to resume screen sharing from the secretary's computer. We are ready to go.
Let me just explain my notations.
All right, Ms. Hogart is going to explain what's going on. Ms. Hogart.
They're the names of the delegates and alternates present for every state delegation in order of state. Sorry, on the screen you'll see the names of the delegates and alternates for every state, the names of the delegates and alternates who are present in this hall today. The notations are that there's a check mark. So the printed list is the list of people who came by the credentials desk and were flagged as checked in by the credentials committee members. Names with arrows next to them on the outside are ones that did not get checked or were checked in, but were not on their chair's list. So I don't know how things happen. The ones that are the names on the side, sorry, my writing is so atrocious, I didn't realize it would be on the screen, are names of people who are here but somehow did not get checked in. So this has actually been a really interesting exercise. I'm amazed and delighted that we missed very few people at the credentialing desk. If you see your name on the side, which means you're here, and you haven't been checked in at the credentialing desk, do that. But also, if you're a chair and you see someone's name checked off on the side or with the little arrow, find out where they are. But yeah, it's pretty close. And when I say close, I mean close to the numbers I gave you earlier.
So, Ms. Hogart, can you give us the original numbers? She's saying it's pretty close to the original report. So we're getting close to adopting a report.
It is close to the original report, but I'm going to remind you that it's an ongoing process. So the report was that we had 300 delegates and 40 alternates in person. That was several hours ago. This report was run about an hour ago, so there's probably a few people who have come in between those two reports. So about 300 delegates.
You said 100 alternates?
40. The last time we ran the report and got the numbers, which was several hours ago. But I would say maybe a handful of people have come in since then.
Okay, so as you can see on the screen, the secretary is sharing the list of names. Mr. Molman, I see you at microphone 2. Does this satisfy your motion? Microphone 2.
Not on. There it is. I believe that it does. Is this available? I know that this was put together just now. Is there a place where we can review it? I apologize. We're in the back. We cannot see that. And by the time I got up here, Kentucky
Hang on
had
one
scrolled off.
second. The secretary is going to give you an answer. The secretary has informed me that she can email you, and you can put it on the convention website right now.
Do it right now. Thank you.
Transparency for everyone. Okay, microphone number 3. Are we? Hold on one second, Madam Secretary. Are we addressing the California motion now, or do we have to? Are we moving to adopt an? Yeah.
We satisfied Mr. Molman, so now we're on Angela McCardle's motion.
Okay. Okay, so that was satisfied. Ms. McCardle from California, do you wish to proceed with your motion or withdraw? Microphone 3.
Withdraw.
Withdraw?
No.
Whoa. I'm a human being with a voice.
Okay.
No, I'm not withdrawing my motion.
Okay, that's what that's why I was asking. So
Thank you.
This is up now. Give me 1 second.
Mr. Chair?
Okay. So the current motion on the floor is to remove the remote participation individuals to then entertain a bylaws amendment to allow for remote participation. Is that correct? Microphone 3, Ms. McCardle?
Yes, that's correct, exactly as it's
second?
worded.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to debate. Oh,
Hi.
oh, I'm sorry. I know. All questions were called. All right. We're going to go to a vote, and we're going to do this by a rising. Well, we're going to do this by voice vote and see if we can reach clarity by there. Would this require 2/3? Majority to adopt this?
Simple majority.
Okay. The question was called. All those in favor of removing the online participation individuals in order to entertain a bylaw amendment to allow remote participation, say aye.
I don't understand the question. We don't understand what we're voting on, Mr. Chair.
The motion is on the screen. Can you guys see it?
Point of information, please restate the vote, what we're voting.
Move to remove.
I think he did.
Please read it as I wrote it so that it doesn't sound like loaded language.
Excuse me, we're in the middle of a vote right now. It's out of order.
I just need
We're in the middle of the
a
vote.
couple of times and I'll see it on screen.
The way he said it was not. It's right there.
There we go. Move to amend credentials report to remove remote participation delegates in order to vote on allowing remote participation by appropriate bylaws amendments that would permit such participation. The question has been called. We will now move to a vote. Point of order from microphone number 1.
Nicholas Sarwark, New Hampshire delegate.
Mr. Sarwark.
Mr. Chairman,
Order.
you're about to move to a vote on the McCardle amendment. I was going to ask, as a point of parliamentary inquiry, who is eligible to vote on this amendment?
Currently, the 300 people in this room.
So you have disenfranchised everyone that's not in the room before a credentials report has been adopted? Is that what the chair is saying?
Order. We will have order. Listen.
Have you determined that they may not vote? Eat a dick.
Listen, everyone, please. Mr. Sarwark has a valid point of order. Mr. Sarwark, finish, please.
My point of order is, at this point, the Credentials Committee has given a report. Everyone in that report is eligible to vote on every vote prior to the Credentials Committee being adopted. There is no justification for disenfranchising delegates that are not present in this room based on the call of the convention, and you are out of order, sir, if you only have a vote of the people in this room.
I rule that point of order. All right. We can get this done, or we could stay here all night. I rule that point of order not well taken, Mr. Sarwark. All questions have been called. We will move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. That clearly has it. Okay. All right, so
Yeah, well, now it's on the credentials report, which has been amended. That's the next vote.
okay. So we're now back to the credentials report that's been amended. I see microphone 2.
The previous question on adopting the credentials report as just amended.
Say that again, Ms. Matson.
Move question on adopting the credentials report as just amended.
Second.
The delegate from California has moved to accept the amended credentials report. It has been seconded. We will move to debate, but have we had enough debate? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Point of information from where? Please come to a microphone. I can't hear you.
There's no debate.
No debate?
There's no debate. The question was called on all previous questions. We've been working our way back up.
Save the list.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
They provided the list. The adoption of the credentials report as submitted by Susan Hogarth.
No debate.
Angela McCardle's amendment that was just adopted. Amended. Now it's up automatically. And I have no problem calling the question.
Okay.
I have no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown has informed me because I didn't have the gavel and there were so many motions that the previous motion that was adopted by Ms. McCardle in California amended. It already did what Ms. Matson was trying to do. So, all questions have been called. There's no debate. We are voting now to accept the amended credentials report of everyone in this room, everyone in this building who can vote. We ready for a vote? Look at that. Look at that. Teamwork makes the dream work, huh? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. That is clearly adopted. We have a credentials report. At this time, we have to get this room ready for the next event, which is I think the chair's debate. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn till tomorrow at 9 a.m. All in. Mic 2, Mr. Bishop Henson.
You're not live. Oh, there you are.
Mr. Bishop Hedgeman, delegate from the District of Columbia, chair of the Bylaws and Rules Committee. I move to suspend the rules for the following compound motion. To adopt the agenda as to suspend the rules to adopt the agenda as presented, to move to the Bylaws and Rules Committee report, to take up Proposal 1, and to adopt it, all as one compound motion.
Mr. Bishop Henchman, give me 1 second because there was a motion to adjourn, which is privileged. So let's see if we can withdraw that and entertain that. Is there any objection to hearing the suspension of the rules by Mr. Bishop Henchman? I know, it's 2 parts.
No, he's saying in one vote.
In one vote?
That was his motion. I'll put up the proposal so everyone can see it.
Okay, so there was objection, and we move to a vote?
One moment.
Hold on.
To put the proposal on the screen.
The secretary is getting it on the screen so that everyone can see what we're voting on. Is there objection to adjourning right now? All right, give me 1 second. We're just getting with the parliamentary here just to make sure what the which way the right way to go is, I would ask everybody to just think about what we're doing right now. And that's all I'll say. I have to remain impartial. Okay. If you want. Let's get this sorted out, and then you're back in. Mr. Bishop Henchman, what you see on screen, is that an accurate reflection of what you would like to do? If you'd like, you can come to the screen right here. There's a TV right here, too. Microphone 2. Can we get microphone 2 on?
Object to consideration of the motion.
Objection to consideration of the motion.
We have to proceed to take care of pending business before we move to this, because
What other pending business is there?
the Judicial Committee and the ratification of the nominees.
That's not on the agenda.
I'm sorry, but the bylaws.
You got to talk to the chair.
I will be happy to do so. And then this is
Mr. Robinson, I agree we need to deal with the Judicial Committee. It is not on the agenda yet.
I will support you when we take care of pending business. We need a vote on whether or not this motion is in order. Well, I'm sorry we wasted so much time today by not following the rules.
There was objection to considering the question.
Objection to consideration. Yeah,
So what do you do with that?
Take it out. It's not debatable.
Okay. So the objection to the consideration of the question requires a 2/3 vote in the nay to overturn and hear what Mr. Bishop Henchman is trying to propose. So we're going to go straight to a vote.
But it's to adopt the motion. It's to suspend the rules to adopt.
All those that object to the consideration of the question, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. That is 2/3. Mr. Bishop Henchman, please explain what you're trying to do.
Thank you. This proposal was adopted unanimously by the Bylaws and Rules Committee. Lots of different people representing lots of different interests came together to develop this as a compromise motion. So how it works is it is left to each state delegation chair to determine who is credentialed for this convention. There is no blanket national rule. Each state decides who of their in-state and out-of-state or remote delegates and alternates are credentialed. It follows the work that has been done of the Credentials Committee, so we don't need to redo anything if this passes, and it applies only to the 2020 convention. If we want to make any part of this permanent, it would require a further action by this body.
Point of inquiry.
The proposal is available online, as well as copies are available at the registration desk. And as I said, it was adopted 9-0 by the Bylaws and Rules Committee.
Is there a second to hearing? Is there a second?
Point of inquiry.
Point of order from?
Point of inquiry.
Point of inquiry from?
Microphone
two.
Is there a reason why we can't debate this? Because this motion suspends the rules so that we can't even debate it. There are flaws with this proposal. There's an alternative being proposed to compete with this. There are flaws in this proposal. There's bugs in the software. There's a better way to do this. So is there a reason why this has to be done without debate?
Okay.
I'm not saying it should be done without debate, but as for the software issue, this does not prescribe what software we use or precisely how we do it. So, you know, if we do it by state delegation ballots, or we do it by, we fix the Porcupine app, or we go to Zoom, whatever we want to do, this motion is compatible with it. So let's do this first, and then figure out how we implement it.
Okay.
Point of inquiry.
Okay. Right, guys.
Point of inquiry. Is the intention of the motion to not have debate on it? 'Cause
Mr.
if you're okay with
Mr.
debate, I'm
Starr,
fine.
we are not having debate. Mr. Bishop Henchman, hold on. Guys. Stop. There was a second. This is one big motion. Mr. Bishop Henchman, correct? Suspend the rules to adopt Rule 1 and the bylaws proposal, correct?
Suspend the rules to adopt the agenda as presented, take up the Bylaws and Rules Committee report, and adopt Proposal 1.
That's one motion.
As one compound
Okay.
motion.
There is a second. Do you want to without debate?
Change your motion, take out the last piece.
If somebody wants to go and amend
Okay.
the agenda
Mr.
later,
Bishop
we can do
Henchman,
that.
Mr. Bishop Henchman, you worded this motion to say without debate.
I did not say without debate.
But that's the effect of it. The effect is there'll be no debate.
Microphone 1.
Move to divide. I would like to divide the adoption from the agenda to the approval of Proposal 1. Thank you.
When we move to divide, we have to handle that separately, right? It's one motion to divide and then entertain the thing, correct? For consideration. Okay, so, Mr. Bishop Henchman, I'm being given advice here, and I'm going to pass this along to you, and you can do with it what you will. Would you entertain, instead of saying move to suspend the rules to adopt, to take up Proposal 1. Not adopt it, but to take it up.
Because the way it's worded, it means it's done without debate. The way the motion is worded, it would be done in one step with no debate. It would be to suspend the rules, adopt the credentials report, and adopt the bylaws amendment, all without debate. Mr. Henchman, if you would change the wording where it says rather than approve the bylaws amendment to take up the bylaws amendment, then the bylaws amendment would be debatable.
You accept that? Microphone number 2.
Thank you for the advice. I think this body wants to get this over with, so I decline to change the motion.
I'll help you clap for that motion.
So that's a yes, Mr. Bishop Henchman? I'm sorry, we're having trouble hearing. Just give me a thumbs up, yes?
Is there no debate item?
Sorry?
No, you want to keep it the same, you said?
I keep it as I presented it, yes.
Okay. No debate? All right, so the parliamentarian is telling me that there's no debate. Point of order from microphone 3. Microphone 3, point of order.
Okay, so I've been trying this for a while, and I think that he actually had my point of order, but I just want everybody to be clear that this is non-debatable and it rolls all kinds of things into one thing. So if we want to debate any part of this, meaning the agenda or and this is a point of order, I'll get to it. My question is, if we do this, we're doing the agenda, we're doing the bylaws amendment, all with one vote. Is that correct?
That
because
is correct.
there's no, so just indulge me. If this is voted with the proper vote to suspend the rules and do all this, there will be no debate and we'll be done. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was not a point of order, Ms.
It was
Ms.
a
Robin. It was
point
a point
of-
of information,
No,
but thank you.
well, Okay, my point of order started out a point of order before somebody else
It's
had
okay,
it. But
thank
since
you.
I had the mic, I did it.
I hear something from microphone number 1.
A motion to divide is not debatable, and a motion to divide has been made.
Is that? Give me 1 second to see if that's in order.
It's a point of order.
Since these two issues are not dependent on each other, it can actually be divided on the demand of a single member.
But are we doing it 2 separate votes?
So it would have to be 2 separate votes.
First to,
Since these two are not dependent on each other, each one
okay.
can be adopted separately.
Microphone 1, please state your name and delegation again, please.
Which person from microphone 1, sir?
Who's asking for a division?
John Phillips, Illinois.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, where do you want to divide?
I believe I stated that earlier, but I want to divide between adopting the agenda and approval of bylaws 1.
Okay.
I think this motion can be divided on the call of one member because the two parts of it are unrelated.
Yeah. No second. Division of the question. Actually, division of the question. Yes.
It depends on whether it's
There must be second.
That depends on whether it's divisible on the demand of a single member.
All right, we're just addressing one thing, and we're going to move forward. Give me 1 second. We're almost there, you know? Point of information for microphone 2.
Hello. I believe JBH described it earlier as the states would have the autonomy to choose how to vote, but Proposal 1 says through electric means provided for by the National Committee. Is that? Can you clarify that?
Mr. Bishop Henchman? He's the chair of bylaws, so I refer to him.
As stated, it says remotely through electronic means, the virtual attendees remotely through electronic means provided by the National Committee. Now, of course, we've tried a whole bunch of different things over the past 2 months. I imagine we'll come to some conclusion this evening about how we proceed with the remote delegates. So I would view that as all of those methods have previously been approved by the National Committee. So I don't view that as some obstacle to what we want to do. As I said, this proposal can accommodate whatever technological solution we determine is best to move forward.
Does that answer the point of information from the gentleman?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that it's still provided for by the National Committee. It's not necessarily up to the states. It could be, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a series of 2 independent resolutions, each dealing with a different subject. And it can be demanded at the request of a single member.
Okay. So it
The motion of information is not, they don't even have to use division of the question. A single member can demand that it be divided because it deals with 2 different subjects.
So there's no
it deals
second
with
required.
a credential and no second required.
Okay.
It deals with the credentials report and it deals with a bylaw amendment.
Okay, so I was inquiring as to whether this required a second. So what we're going to do is there's been a move to divide. The point of order, microphone 3.
Will McVeigh from Delaware. I may be incorrect here. I'm perfectly willing to be, but I do not believe it is in order to divide a suspension of the rules.
Say that again. It's not in order to what?
Divide a suspension of the rules. Like if there's a single motion that's to be adopted under a suspension of the rules, you can't divide the motion
That
being
is an
done
interesting
underneath it.
point of order. I will get an answer for you. Give me 1 moment.
Thank you.
Because it deals with 2 separate subject matters.
I'm being told that the point of order is not well taken and that this is in order. So, where we are at is we are dividing the question. One question deals with the adoption of the agenda, and then the second question is to take up the bylaw proposal. It does not require a second debate. No debate. Oh, we have to move to a vote to. We have to move to a vote in order to.
It's divided automatically on the demand of a single member.
Oh, it's already okay. So what do we do now? Are we debating?
Not adopting the agenda, but adopting the credentials report. Once we adopt it, then it's two pieces. Two pieces. Oh, he did say agenda. Yeah, he did say agenda. It's next automatic. Anyway.
So is there debate?
But he wants to go straight to proposal one.
Is there debate?
No, suspending the rules, no.
It's not just adopting the agenda unless you can debate on it.
Well, suspending, yeah.
Who wrote it suspending the rules?
Yes, the agenda is next, so okay.
Could you explain that voting down the second proposal, we go to the bylaws committee first, and the bylaws committee chair could present this proposal?
But are we debating? Okay, guys, are we debating? Or are we going to a vote? Please tell me. I believe we're debating.
Basically, there's division.
Yeah.
So then you're going to go to agenda. There's debate.
There's debate. That's what I need. Okay.
The agenda's next, 50% to adopt it is amendable. And once it's adopted, you as chair of the bylaws committee, you can present whatever you want.
Debatable or not?
Agenda, you can amend it, debate the agenda.
Okay.
Agenda's amendable and debatable.
All right. So we are.
But you see, it says motion to suspend the rules and to adopt it without debate. Is that what his motion is?
One member can call for a division of the question in this particular matter because we're taking up two different objects. So we are going to debate adopting the agenda first, and then the second part. Microphone 2.
Yes. I move that we recess till tomorrow in order to have due time to make consideration.
Move your JC thing. It'll pass now.
Also, I would like to point out that we have pending old business from 2018 regarding the election of the Judicial Committee.
Okay, you want to move to adjourn till tomorrow. What time?
9 o'clock.
Okay, 1 second. All right. Hang on. We'll get this sorted out. Move to adjourn till tomorrow 9 a.m. It's ugly, I know. Okay, so to move to adjourn is in order. There's no debate. Is there a second? Move to recess till tomorrow till 9 a.m. Yeah, we can't recess. It's adjourned. That's the proper term.
All right.
Till 9 a.m. We're gonna move straight to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Okay.
All right, we are back on the Bishop Henchman motion to suspend the rules, which is divided, and we are now debating adopting the agenda. All right, we're going to go in order here. Microphone 1.
I move previous question. Matthew Long, Connecticut.
Okay, we're going to microphone 2.
If we vote down the second part of this motion, then what will happen is that the next item of business is the bylaws committee. He can bring up the proposal.
It doesn't
proposal
require.
number one,
It doesn't
and
require.
it can be debated.
Mike 1's calling the question.
That's a better.
Yeah, that's what I.
Okay, is there any objection to suspending debate and moving to a vote?
I will.
On the agenda. On the
is
agenda.
fine. So I'm not
I hear no objection. So we'll move to a vote to adopt the agenda. All in favor? of adopting the agenda, please say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Point of inquiry.
Point of inquiry from
It
Mr. Starr.
passes, right?
So on the second motion right now, I just want to understand the effect of voting yes and the effect of voting no.
Mr. Starr,
My-
hang on for 1 second. I didn't establish the vote, please. It was close. The last vote to me was a little close. We're having a hard time hearing up here. There's an echo. We're going to try this one more time. All in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, now the agenda is adopted. That's the first part of the division. Now we'll move to the second part. Mr. Starr, you're recognized.
Point of inquiry. So I want to understand the impact of voting yes and voting no. Here's my understanding. If we vote yes, we're adopting this proposal, Proposal 1, from the Bylaws Committee, immediately without debate. If we vote no, then the Bylaws Committee is the very next item of business, and Joe Henchman can bring up the item 1 for debate. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
Give me 1 second because I haven't seen the agenda myself, to be honest with you. So hold on. Okay. All right, everyone. We're getting low on time here. To answer the point of inquiry by the gentleman from California, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Please vote no.
Microphone, is there anyone at microphone 3 I'm having a hard time seeing? Just wave your hand.
Yes.
Microphone 3.
Everybody's going to hate me, but I'm going to call orders of the day. My regional caucus starts in 3 minutes in the hotel.
I would
think they're gonna
say,
leave
are
and
we,
we're gonna lose
do we need more debate, guys? Microphone 2, microphone 2.
That
You
was
good?
my comment.
All right, we're going to move straight to a vote here. What's the threshold, Mr. Brown? What's the threshold to adopt this, the bylaw? What's the threshold to adopt?
Two-thirds. Are we on the ballot?
Yeah, we're calling.
Two-thirds vote to adopt a bylaw.
Okay, so it requires a 2/3 threshold to adopt. Does everyone understand where we are? I hear a request for information. Microphone 3.
Mr. Chair, request for information, Sean Gower, delegate from Delaware. With the agenda adopted, are we allowed to subsequently add or amend the agenda as we proceed through the remainder of the convention?
I believe so. It would require suspension of the rules, though, because we've adopted the agenda now.
It can be amended, but it takes a two-thirds.
Yeah, it can be amended, but it takes a 2/3 to amend. All right, we are going to move to a vote. Point of information, microphone 1.
What is the first item on the agenda?
The
that we
first
just
item on the
approved?
agenda is the bylaws committee report.
Are we doing that? Are we considering that now?
That will be when we reconvene. Are we ready?
Yep. What are we voting on? Proposal 1. Huh? Proposal 1?
Proposal 1 is what we're voting on. So everybody.
All right, I need you to come to a microphone. We're in the middle of a motion that I believe takes care of that. Mr. Bishop Henchman, please come to the stadium. I mean to the podium. Who had the point of who wanted to be recognized? Microphone 3.
Sean Goward from Delaware. I withdraw my my proposal as it is addressed by the division of the question and asking the second portion of that division.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we're at. We're going to a vote. On the Bishop Henchman thing. Give me 1 second. There's a little bit of confusion. 1 second. We're on the second part of the division, Ms. Harless.
Point of information, Mike 3.
Yeah, that's what I say. Is adopting proposal 1.
It is. Point of information, Mike
All
3,
right.
please.
Point of information, microphone 3.
I was wondering if there was available information regarding the number of state affiliates intending to disaffiliate from the national party if online credentialing is not enabled today.
I don't have that number readily available, but I have heard it's a few. Personally, I don't believe that's going to happen. We're gonna make this happen.
Mr. Chairman,
If everyone speaks at the same time, I can't. Microphone 1. Microphone 1.
What?
Please come to the microphone. Let's do this in order. Come on.
I call the question. Matthew Long, Connecticut.
All right, we're going to go to a vote here. And be done with this once for all. All in favor of adopting proposal 1 from the bylaws committee report, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. It is. All right, we're gonna have to stand. It does require 2/3. I thought it was 2/3, but all those in favor, please stand.
That's what you should do.
Yeah. Okay, everyone please sit. Everyone please sit. Everyone please sit. Everyone that is opposed to this, please rise. That is clearly 2/3. I will now hand the gavel back to Mr. Merced, and I would advise everyone to let's come back till tomorrow and let's do the damn thing. Thank you.
Okay. Microphone 2.
D. Frank Robinson, Oklahoma delegate, co-founder of the Libertarian Party. The secretary has a motion at her desk. I would like to have it put before the convention for a vote.
Okay. Would it be possible for us to entertain that motion when we reconvene tomorrow?
Is there going to be any further business today?
Huh? No. I mean, right now we're about to lose quorum, as many regions are about to leave to have their meetings. So that way we can actually take up and debate the motion versus just it dying because of quorum.
I haven't heard a motion to adjourn yet.
Okay. Would you like to make that? I would. Yes, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to 9 a.m. tomorrow. So move. Okay, and who's willing to support that motion? Say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Adjourn. Oh wait, announcements. One moment, announcements. But we're adjourned. But announcements.
Announcements. This evening, regional meetings for those regions that have them are delayed, I think, until 7 o'clock. Get them done as quickly as possible, because in this room at 8 o'clock there will be a debate for the position of chair of the Libertarian Party for the next 2 years. There will be 5 or 6 candidates debating, some of them far away from here and some of them here on the stage with me. Following that, there will be a vice chair debate consisting of God knows who's running for vice chair right now. And then there will finally, is there going to be a secretary debate or not, you guys? No, there will not be a secretary debate because the Oxford comma is a settled issue, and we will see you all back in here at 8 o'clock tonight. That's a little bit different than schedule, so please note, 8 o'clock tonight for the chairs debate. Thank you. What? Oh, yeah, one more. Where are they going to send them, Ken? No. If you have questions for the chair candidates tonight, please present them in a legible manner on a written piece of paper, legible, and hand them to me or leave them on the secretary's desk, please. We will address them during the debate. Thank you.
Everybody, real quickly, as a member of the platform committee, I've been working real hard all day to get platform reports printed out. We have a limited amount. If your state absolutely feels like they want a paper copy of the platform report, we're just going to do one per state. California, Florida, and Georgia have already been given one, so we have 25 printed reports of the platform report. Yes, and they are posted online at LNC 2020 if you want the PDF and you want to save paper and all the good stuff. Thank you.
Hello, I'd like to make an announcement, please. My name is James Orlando Ogle, and I started a proportional representation electoral college, 1995. Harry Browd, the Libertarian, won. A lot of electors here voted and approved an item, new World Trade Center 7 investigation. If any electors would like to change their votes, I have the paper ballot here. Please contact me. It's a write-in item, World Trade Center 7 investigation. And
we didn't give you the microphone.
I thought you said after when it was adjourned, I could make the announcement.
I said I would tell you when, but I didn't
Okay.
say yet.
Let me know when I can.
Okay, so probably not today, but
You had told me today when it was.
I would find a time, but we'll come back to it. Okay.
Hello, everybody. The Povertarian Caucus wishes to cordially invite all delegates to the 4th biannual Povertarian Pizza Banquet to be held this Saturday evening at 8 p.m. in the hotel lobby. Remote delegates can also participate in our first ever virtual pizza party at the link available on our Facebook page. We're collecting money in advance to facilitate the order, so if you have cash, please get it to me or send it through our PayPal, also listed on the Facebook page at paypal.me/Povertarians. The pizza banquet is a pay-what-you-can event. No one will be turned away. You all matter to this party, so much more than money. So be there no matter what. Thank you for your service to the Libertarian Party.